I feel so dumb.
I don't know. That's crazy. Anyway, we just have to move on from that. This is oh fuck, my head hurts, dude. Hey, before we hop into it, this is Editing Percy from the future. I'm just hopping in here to let you know, if you love this book, I'm so happy for you. I am so happy for you. I'm so happy for you. But not everything's for everyone. And if you're either the authors, if you're friends with the authors, or if you are just a diehard for this book, maybe skip this one. Maybe skip this one. I'm a little ruthless. See you on the other side.
Hi, I'm Persephone. My friends call me Percy, so you can too. Today, we are here to solve a mystery. And no, it is not the mystery of why the fuck my hair looks like a wig. It is my hair. I don't know why it's sitting like that. Okay? We just have to ignore it. No, today we're here to solve Gone Before Goodbye by Reese Witherspoon and Harlan Coben, right? No, Harlan Coben. Sorry, Queen, if I'm saying your name wrong. I hope that you don't mind me calling you Queen. Okay. Oh, no, it's a man. Sorry, dude. So I've been wanting to do a solve along with me for the longest time. Why? Because I'm dumb. Actually, no. I am smart. I think I'm smart enough. You know what I mean? I got something up here. But sorry, you know when they say, oh, the wheel's spinning but the hamster's not home, or the lights are on and no one's home, you know what I mean? I was just thinking, what's up here? It's a spinning disco ball, alright? That being said, here's the thing. When I read, I am the quintessential passenger princess reader. I'm not here to drive the car. I'm not here to try to figure it out. I'm here to go on the ride with you to see where you want to take me. I'm here to have a good time. Get a big fun drink and have to stop every like 20 minutes to pee. That's what I'm here for. I'm not even here to DJ, okay? I'm just here to look good and have a good time. And so that being said, I also realized I got a big blank wall behind me. I've been meaning to decorate this thing and I just haven't. I need to go thrifting. I need to find a shelf. I have roses I want to hang. I got a whole vision for this, but right now it's blank. And I got a stack of construction paper from the Santa Cruz video I did. So I thought, why not put it to good use? And I've been wanting to do a video like this for a very long time. I thought it'd be really fun. I've seen Gavin Reads It All. I've been following him since How to Train Your Gavin, but I've seen Gavin Reads It All do this for a long time. I love when Carrie Can Read does videos like this. I love videos like this, and so I thought I would throw my hand in. And so I went through my Libby app, and originally I was going to do this with a Frida McFadden book, because I've seen Frida McFadden everywhere. I know The Housemaid was a huge thing when the movie came out, but here's the thing. I see her name so often that in my head she's in the same category as Colleen Hoover. And so with that in mind, I thought, oh, that'd be like a fun one to start with, right? And so with that in mind, I go into my little Libby app and I put in mystery and I sort popular and I sort by Kindle instead of audiobook, right? Because I want it on the Kindle. And I expect to see Frida McFadden like near the top, and she was, but above that, I saw a very familiar name that I wasn't expecting. Reese Witherspoon. And I went, I'm sorry. What do you mean? What do you mean? Like, what do you mean that Miss Legally Blonde herself wrote a mystery book, like a crime thriller book, and I haven't heard anything about it? And I don't know, maybe I've been unplugged for a while, so this could have been everywhere and I just missed it. And everything, here's the thing. Everything I see Reese Witherspoon in, whether it be a movie or an interview, what have you, I think she's quite charming. I like her a lot. And so seeing her name on a book just piqued my interest. And so I couldn't not do it. And so I see there's a wait, so I'm like, okay, I'll put my little hold in, I put my request. And honestly, I didn't even read the description what it was about. I thought it was a suspense, I thought it was a mystery. I think it said thriller as well. And it had a 3-week wait. Okay, perfect. And there's a few copies. There's like a good number of copies in the system. 3-week wait. Okay, it is like very popular. I put my little hold in, I send it off, I put it aside, I continue working the video that I'm currently working, which is a more scripted video. Takes a lot longer. I have to sit and chew, and again, I got something up here, but it's a disco ball, so I really have to chew when it comes to those longer scripted videos, right? And I forget about the hold. The hold comes through. I'm hyped. I threw on some makeup so I didn't look dead because I've been cleaning all day. I'm still in my lizard shirt, which is like one of my favorite shirts, but my lizard shirt. And here we are. So let's get into it. Let's read the description together for the first time. In this unforgettable... I've been alone all day and I can't talk. I haven't talked to anyone. Oh my god, forgive me. In this unforgettable suspense novel that combines the storytelling talents of Academy Award-winning actress Reese Witherspoon, and internationally best-selling author Harlan Coben, a woman is trapped in a deadly conspiracy where uncovering the truth could cost her everything. Fun, fun, fun! Maggie McCabe is teetering on the brink. A highly skilled and renowned Army combat surgeon, she has always lived life at the edge where she could make the most impact. And it was all going to plan, until it wasn't. Upside down after a devastating series of tragedies leads her to... Upside down after a devastating series of tragedies leads to her medical license being revoked. Maggie has lost her purpose, but not her nerve or her passion. At her lowest point, she is thrown a lifeline by a former colleague, an elite plastic surgeon whose anonymous clientele demand the best care money can buy, as well as absolute discretion. Halfway across the globe, sequestered in the lap of luxury and cutting-edge technology, one of the world's most mysterious men requires unconventional medical assistance. Desperate, and one of the few surgeons in the world skilled enough to take this job, Maggie enters his realm of unspeakable opulence and fulfills her end of the agreement. But when the patient suddenly disappears while still under her care, Maggie must become a fugitive herself, or she'll be the next one who is gone before goodbye. A tour de force thriller that delivers a killer premise and thundering plot with serious emotional punch. Maggie is flawed, compelling, and utterly real. Coben and Witherspoon are a dream team. Lucy Foley, author of The Guest List. Okay. Sounds interesting. Okay, I don't know what I thought it was going to be, personally. I'm kind of glad that it seems out there. You know? I feel like a lot of thrillers that I've read are like a neighbor obsessed with the strange person in her house, and it's like much more, not small town, but like, how can I put this? Not lower stakes. Kind of lower stakes. Much more smaller cast, much more smaller setting. This seems kind of grand. So that's exciting. I'm also very interested in the military aspect of it all. If you guys are new here and you don't know, my partner is a former military, he's a former Marine. And so whenever it comes to military things, he has a wide range of knowledge. He's met a lot of people. I will be really interested to see how that comes into play in the story, because she could just be like a normal surgeon, but the fact that she's like an army doctor. I'm so stupid. I also have an army doctor in like my mom's best friends. My mom's best friend's eldest son's also an army doctor. I could also call him. Hilarious, I forgot about him given I've known him my entire life. Anyway, the point I'm making is I'm really interested as to why that's the case and how that's gonna come into play, because there's something really like juicy there. Yeah, no, I'm excited. And the dedication says, to the many military doctors and nurses who have placed themselves in peril to help save every soul they could, thank you for your courage and compassion. Yeah, it takes a very specific type of person to be able to be a military doctor. That is something very different to just a normal everyday doctor. So I'm really interested to see how that's gonna like come into play. I don't know, I am excited. Now, do I think I would be able to solve the mystery? Probably not. This is my first time doing a video like this, so we'll see what happens. So I'm gonna jump into this and I will be right back. For you guys, it's just gonna be a second. For me, it's probably gonna be tomorrow, because my partner just pulled up, and my father-in-law and my mother-in-law, everyone's home, but my partner specifically has D&D tonight and we share this space, and I don't want to be like, hey, don't talk to your friends, I need to talk about my book. So I'll talk to you when I talk to you, and we'll start building a board.
Okay, we're back. New angle, by the way. How do we feel? We're only a chapter in. Not even a chapter. We're in the prologue, and I already have thoughts, which hopefully doesn't happen between every single little section, but who knows? Not me. So we start in North Africa, like I said, and we start not with Maggie, but with Mark, her husband, which confused the hell out of me, I will say. But he is also a military surgeon, right? So he is in an active war zone. There's rapid gunfire going off, there's explosions, there's loud screaming. they're evacuating, and his team, which is composed of a woman who might be named Salima, who's like their translator, their in-between, and Mark's friend named Trace. I haven't made signs for them yet because I don't know if this is just a prologue thing or if they're going to be around, okay? But I wanted to check in because there's a line that I found very interesting, and we'll see how that makes me feel the rest of the book. And so everyone's being evacuated. Trace, Salima, everyone, except for Mark, who refuses to leave his patient. But the screams and the gunfire are coming closer, so he's trying to hurry and close up his patient. Trace offered to stay, and he said, no, go. I know what I'm doing. Be gone. And apparently they'll never see each other again. They never said bye, but they'll never see each other again. There's a highlighted line that's highlighted from 408 other people, and it says, you wonder what makes a hero? There's altruism, sure, but there's also ego and recklessness and thrill-seeking. We don't fear danger. We fear normalcy. And that shit pissed me the fuck off. I don't want to be a hating-ass bitch. I don't want to be a hater. I don't. But the line, we don't fear danger, we fear normalcy, makes me want to punch you in the face. You don't get to call yourself a hero on page 1 of a book. Most people don't get to call themselves a hero, period. In my opinion. I think other people need to call you a hero. Unless you're like a decorated individual, okay? But the next paragraph on the next page, I was like, okay, wait, hold on, you got some chops. You can't save him, the nurse says to me as she pulls away. Even if you finish in time, even if he could somehow survive the surgery, they won't let him live. I don't know who they are. I don't know the justifications, the origins, the history, the factions, the tribes, the warlords, the fanatics, the extremists, the innocents. I don't know who the good guys or the bad guys are. Why these people are in this refugee camp. What side is the oppressor or what side is the oppressed? It's not that I'm political, but for Maggie and Trace and me, it can't matter. I continue to work on my patient, a 15-year-old boy named Ezeal. I hope everyone I treat isn't innocent, but I doubt it. It just can't be our job to figure out who is on what side. Our job, not to get too grandiose, is to save lives. They say, kill them all and let God sort them out. It's close to the opposite for us. Save them all and let God... You get the drift. I'm not being both sides here. I'm being no sides. And I think that is a much better description of, like, the moment that he is in. You know what I mean? The hero line pissed me off, but this brought me back in. So immediately, I was yanked out of the book and immediately pulled back in, and so I had to talk about it, just in case, okay? In case there's a running theme here. But, yeah. Interesting already. Dramatic already. Personally, I don't know how I feel just yet, but it was a lot of intense emotions, you know? So, we're starting off... for lack of a better word, a bang. I don't know if that's appropriate to say as explosions are going off and there are child soldiers here. I don't know, but Anyway. Let's see where this takes us. It's like 100 degrees outside and we're right in front of a window, hence the natural lighting. It looks so good. But I have to turn my AC off to do this, so let's crank this update out. Okay, I have read the first 3 chapters. I was gonna read the first 5 and then come back to you because, like, 5 is a nice even number. A nice round number. But there are too many people. There are too many people here. So I need to talk to you about them. Because if not, then I'm gonna forget people to talk to you about. Keep in mind, I'm taking notes. But there are just so many people. We started the book with Mark. I've told you about him. We've heard him. We love him. Mark. His card says husband, surgeon, and army surgeon. I don't know what type of surgeon he is, but we know he's in the army, so he gets 2 titles, and once we find out what type of surgeon he is, I will put it there. Mark. He is husband to the main character, Maggie. She is the main character. She is also a surgeon. She's a disgraced surgeon at that. And she's also an army surgeon. I wrote wife just because his says husband. I thought it would be weird if one said husband and I don't know, maybe you would lose track of who we're talking about and think it's next to his sister or something. I don't know, it felt weird. I had to label both of them. I don't care that it's crooked. I don't. It's not crooked to me, so it doesn't matter. Maggie and Mark. Eminem. He lovingly buys her a bunch of shit with the yellow and green M&M on them. And so her phone case is M&Ms, and the house has, like, stuffed, has pillows with M&M covers, etc., cute, whatever. Mark, was thinking of Maggie in his, it's not his, like, final moment. So the prologue was with Mark, right? We talked about this. The explosions, the panicking. The book picks up a year later, and Mark is still not home, but all he was thinking about in those final moments was, I should have gone home to my wife. I want my wife. I should have gone home. And as he thinks he's gonna die, he sees her face, right? Okay. Where is he? They talk on the phone. She FaceTimes him. Where is he? He is still out doing humanitarian work, okay? Next, we pick up the book with Maggie going to her and Mark's old college, their alum, and there's a scholarship thing happening, a presentation in honor of Maggie's dead mom. Just says mom. I don't know her first name. Just mom. She was a professor, and she was also an army surgeon, I think. She might not have been an army surgeon, but she was a surgeon of some sort. A wonderful doctor. People really loved and respected her, so they have a scholarship named after her, right? Maggie goes because she was offered to present said scholarship, but she was disgraced, right? We still don't know why, but she goes to this event embarrassed and shameful, and everyone is treating her as if she is some sort of leper or something. No one will look at her, no one will talk to her. A disgraced surgeon, okay, capital D. And the class president, Bonnie, even told her, your mom doesn't just belong to you here. She belongs to all of us. She was, like, a well-beloved professor. She was incredibly well-established. She was a genius. So you shouldn't be here. You're disgracing her memory by being here. Harsh. Do you know what Maggie says? Maggie says, when she finds out that Bonnie is going to be the one that presents the scholarship, I wrote it down. Maggie says, and I quote, but my mother always thought you were a stuck-up tight-ass bitch, Bonnie. I love Maggie so far. I love that. She does correct herself. And when Bonnie turns to walk away, Maggie goes, okay, I'm sorry. My mother never said that. She'd be honored that you're the one presenting it. Sorry. To which Bonnie goes, thank you. But that's fucking funny. That's funny. Good for Maggie. It's one, again, we don't know, again, and I could eat my words later because we don't know why she was disgraced just yet. I have some suspicions. So that could be, like, completely uncalled for. But for me, that was sick as fuck. Since we have a mom, we also have a dad. He was also an army surgeon. While Maggie and Mark went to Afghanistan, dad doctor, went to Vietnam. I don't know his name either. It's just mom and dad. They're both dead. Don't judge my exes, okay? I was gonna cut them up beforehand when I made all my little cards, and then I forgot, so I was just frantically sitting here cutting until they're kind of ugly, but they do the job. They're dead. And because they are dead, Dr. Barlow... Wait. There we go. I'm gonna put him over here. Dr. Barlow admits to Maggie that he was in love with her mom. He has 3 failed marriages. He is in his 70s and is currently married to a 34-year-old. And unprompted, at this, like, reunion / ceremony, tells Maggie that he always loved her mom and was his lost love and, like, full of regret. And he can now feel free saying it because the dad is dead too. They're both dead, so he can just admit that. I didn't talk about the color coding. Light blue is for our characters. Main character is Maggie. She says main character up here. But our main characters, our main players, if you will, are in light blue. Dark blue are extended players. So family members who are mentioned and who might be important, but might not be integral to the mystery, right? And red is suspicious. Now, why is Dr. Barlow, Maggie's former mentor, suspicious besides being in love with her dead mom? Because he offers her $20,000 to come to New York Monday morning to his office to meet about a business deal that he cannot discuss here at Johns Hopkins. To which she's like, that's weird. Why don't you just tell me what it is? And doesn't believe him because, again, she's lost her license. She's disgraced. She's like, I can't work for you. There's nothing I can do. And he pulls out his pocketbook, like, I'll pay you $20,000 now just to show up. I know you and your sister are having a hard time. Fucking rude. Don't bring that up. But fine. And because of that, he's immediately suspicious for everything. We'll talk about her sister in a second. Suspect. Of what? Unsure yet. Unsure, but suspect. Suspect number 2, Sleazy Steve. Did I spell sleazy right? I don't know. But suspect only because of his nickname. He has a full name, Steven something, whatever. I don't care. Sleazy Steve. He works at Apollo and is sleazy. I'll tell you about Apollo in a second. He's one of Maggie's former classmates who came up to her, the first person to talk to her at this event, and makes really, like, almost cartoon villain level comment about, like, wow, you're so fine, you're so fit. And when she's like, ew, he goes, it's okay, I can get young bitches anyway. Like, he says young tail, but we know what he meant to say. You know what I mean? Sleazy man. And so he's up there, 1, because of that. 2, he's been brought up a couple times again by her sister, also brought him up and, like, knows him to be sleazy and not a great moral standing. But not just that, he also works at Apollo Longevity. Can you tell I found a different Sharpie? Apollo Longevity provides cosmetic procedures to the wealthy and the famous in Dubai. They talk about how Sleazy Steve has over 1 million subscribers. Or, excuse me, he has over 1 million followers on Instagram, and I don't think they mention YouTube or TikTok, but they say Instagram. And that he works with a lot of, like, influencers and loud and boisterous individuals who get a lot of work done and who talk about getting a lot of work done. Versus Dr. Barlow, who also, he's a billionaire, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that. He's a billionaire. And all of his money did not come from helping people. They came from things like lifestyle supplements, hair products, things of that nature. A sellout, if you will. But Dr. Barlow still does cosmetic surgeries, but you don't know whose surgeries he does. He does the rich and the wealthy that can buy their way out of anything. He services rich people so rich, you don't know that they exist type rich, okay? He's a billionaire, like I said. Versus Sleazy Steve, you know exactly who he works on because he talks about it and they talk about it type-ish, okay? But Apollo Longevity in Dubai. Maggie also has a relationship with Apollo Longevity. She worked there for a short time, I believe. Not in Dubai, but she worked through Apollo for a short time. And so that's also why he kind of brings it up to her. Because he's like, I'm still there. Unlike you, even though you were there first, whatever. He brings it up. And so I made it a place card. Orange is for places and or entities. Speaking of organizations and places, World Cures, which is also deceased. It was founded by Maggie, Mark, and Trace. I don't know if you remember Trace. We mentioned him at the very beginning in the whole explosion scene where Mark says that he'll never see him again. They don't say bye to each other, but they'll never see him again. Trace is Mark and Maggie's best friend. Apparently Maggie's friend first, but once she introduced him to Mark, they took, like, I almost said fire and gasoline, but that doesn't feel like a nice comparison. Fuck. Whatever, we know it's there. We'll change my angle in a second. World Cures, way up there. It no longer exists. It is also deceased. I'll make an X for it when my AC is back on. That World Cures was founded by the 3 friends in order to help the underrepresented, to help those who couldn't afford healthcare, to provide services and life-saving measures for people who couldn't afford it. The underserved, which I keep reading as the undeserved, but it's the underserved. That's what World Cures was founded for. Our main, I'll put them up in a second, hold on. Our main guys, heroes at heart. Again, don't call yourself a hero, but heroes at heart, I'll call them it. They wanted to put more good into the world, and so they found World Cures. At World Cures is where Maggie was disgraced, and it, as the face of the company being disgraced, basically sank the entire ship. They lost all of their funding basically overnight because of whatever happened with Maggie. Maggie disgraced at her scholarship thing. She then goes home to Shannon, her big sister, little sister, her sister, Shannon, sister, who is a whiz kid in her own right. Maggie says that she would have been a child prodigy if her parents believed in child prodigies, in the sense where they know that anyone who is gifted at such a young age, who can fly through school at the age of 11, who could go to college before they hit their teens, they burn out, and they would much rather have a healthy, successful daughter than a rapid, successful daughter. And so they made her go through school like her sister and like everyone else her age. But she is a whiz, a genius. She is also heartbroken right now. Maggie lives with her sister Shannon and her nephew Cole, who is 15 and just a sweet kid. That's it. I wanted to put him up because he is attached to Shannon at the hip. Not at the hip, but like, that's her kid. You know what I mean? Now, why is Maggie living with Shannon? We don't know. We don't know where Mark is. He is somewhere. Maybe Bangladesh. Trace is mentioned to might be in Bangladesh. I'll put him up in a second. But it's mentioned that he's probably in Bangladesh. So maybe that's where Mark is. We haven't mentioned. We've seen him because they've FaceTimed. Maggie has FaceTimed Mark. Unless she's imagining it. Which is possible. Mark might be dead. Mark might actually be dead. Did you kill Mark? Maybe. Anyway. We don't know where Mark is. Maggie is living with Shannon and Cole, and because she's been disgraced, she can't work. They're almost in financial ruin. They're living in their childhood home, the three of them, and Shannon is on the verge of like, hey, we need to sell the house. And this is a conversation that they've obviously had multiple times because Maggie has the speech memorized. So they've talked about it, but Maggie simply refuses. She refuses. Now, why is Shannon also in financial ruin? She is going through a very contentious divorce with Cole's dad, who I will not put up. I didn't write down his name. Tad. I did write down his name. His name's Tad. Fuck Tad. Shannon also did military service at one point. She was more of the code breaker. She didn't go out into the field. She was tick, 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 I'm in, bitch. That's who she was. And once she got out of the military, her and Tad went into the private working force, and they started developing an artificial intelligence, in an app that was meant to be used by working professionals to replicate them. The examples that they give, again, this is fiction, okay? I don't think we have the capacities to do this right now, personally, which is why it doesn't scare me. Working professionals could consent to being put into this database, I guess, where their patients could reach out to them and have access to them 24/7. So an example they give is a therapist. A patient might need help and counseling in the middle of the night, and the therapist is sleeping, but hey, you can talk to the AI version of them 24/7. Or my doctor's on vacation, but I wanted to just have a quick question about my medication. Let me message their AI representative instead, and it's meant to like be a replacement for the person, which is a god-awful idea. Even if we did have perfect AI, that's a god-awful idea. But not according to her husband, who saw dollar signs. And when Shannon, I did it again, Shannon or Sharon, I don't know. When sister started to have some moral quandaries about the implications of these things and selling this to the consumer, especially as like a membership program, the types of people who would be drawn to services like this, people who do need help, she wasn't okay with it. She didn't like it. But her husband, who I already forgot the name of, only saw dollar signs and basically fucked her over. He took all of their patents and confused her and made her sign things that she didn't fully understand, and took all of their patents, ran away with his girlfriend, and then served her really, really aggressive divorce papers, basically, meaning that she would get no money even though she has full custody of Cole. And she can't fight it because she can't afford to fight it, and also his dad is a judge. So the writing is pretty tightly bound, and he ran away with his girlfriend. I think they're married. I hope they choke. But that's why our main girls are in a lot of financial dire straits, and why Maggie is she does go to New York for the $20,000 in order to help with the bills and to make some money, because they're both struggling. Shannon is working, but it's hard. It's hard out here. So, and she's supporting all three of them, basically. So, it's rough. It's rough in these streets. when Maggie comes home from the reunion, Shannon does ask her how did it go, who presented the award, because, yeah, she's real smart. She knows. And they start talking about it. Maggie mentions, hey, I'm going up to New York on Monday. They're in Baltimore. Hey, I need to go up to New York on Monday. Shannon's like, why? Who are you seeing? Who are you meeting? To which Maggie is like, no one. And Shannon is like, hey, I won't judge you. Who are you meeting? As in, did you meet a man? Are you trying to go on a date? Which is why I think maybe Mark is dead, and that's why she lost her license. It's kind of suggested and posed as, hey, if you want to have an affair while Mark's not here, I won't judge you. You're my sister and I choose you over Mark. You know what I mean? But it could also be read that Mark is gone and Maggie might be, if she's responsible for his death, that, hey, I won't judge you for wanting to, like, start seeing someone, right? And this is where Shannon brings up Trace. Bestie, surgeon, lover, question mark?
Hey, did you get any of my texts?
I'm filming. I don't know, dude. Fuck, okay. Good morning. I won't talk about it. Where were we? Trace, the possible lover. I forgot. This is why I take notes. I actually did forget. Hold on. So sorry. Oh, okay. No, I remember. So, Maggie came home to Shannon, right? And Shannon was like, why are you going to New York on Monday? That's weird. That's out of character for you. Who are you meeting and why? And she brings up Trace, and she talks about not judging. So there's an implication that Maggie either had a thing for Trace or currently has a thing for Trace or some unspoken third thing. You know what I mean? The point is, possible lover, don't know if affair, don't know if they're separated or not. I don't think we've had anyone else talk about Mark or talk to Mark, not about Mark, but talk to Mark besides Maggie. So I think he's dead. I think she might have killed him. Personally, that doesn't make sense, but I'm sticking with it. Especially with the Dr. Barlow and secret love for dead mom. Like, they've already set up the theme of, like, secret, unrequited love that's confessed after death. You know what I mean? That's already been brought up. So if it comes up again later in the book, it wouldn't be that shocking. But if this is never brought up again, then I could see someone forgetting it. I probably would have forgotten it if I wasn't talking to you, you know? So, interesting. Maggie says she's going to New York. She had already told Mark, and so now she's telling Shannon that she is calling Pork Chop. Who's Pork Chop? Why is she calling Pork Chop? As you see, it's his dad. He's Mark's dad. Why is he named Pork Chop? He's a biker, okay? He actually owns a biker bar in New York, which is why Maggie is calling Pork Chop to pick her up from Amtrak in the city. Also, they have a really sweet relationship. Maggie and Pork Chop have a very sweet relationship, and he doesn't question it. One, she doesn't even call him. He doesn't have a phone. He doesn't have a phone, a computer. He doesn't even have a digital camera. This man has a payphone in the bar, and that's it, and I love that for him. I love him. But, so she calls the bar Vipers. Vipers for bikers. She calls Vipers for bikers. She calls saying, going to the city. He goes, oh, are you taking Amtrak? She goes, yes. He goes, okay, what time? 7:14. Okay, I'll be there. And that's it. That's the conversation. So he drops everything to go pick her up, as she knew that he would. There was never a discussion of like, hey, are you free? What's the thing? Da-da-da. He's like, no, call me. I will be there. Only a way a father could. You know what I mean? And when he does pick her up in New York, he gives her the biggest bear hug, and he does not let go until she does. And it's so sweet. That is the only reason why he has a main character card and not like a dark blue side character card. Because I love him. He's the dad that she needs since her dad is dead. Apparently Shannon also loves Pork Chop, because Shannon asks like, hey, you're going to the city, how are you getting there, da-da-da-da, how are you getting there, who are you seeing, who are you going to be with, when are you coming home, that type of shit. And Maggie was like, I called Pork Chop. She goes, I know, we all love Pork Chop, okay? I understand. We all love him. Why are you going to the city? Was the type of conversation. So we all love Pork Chop. I love Pork Chop. And this is also why I think that Maggie either killed Mark or is the reason why Mark is dead and that's why she lost her license. Wait, hold on. I realized this was a good time to introduce my sus tab. I have a tab that says sus. It's crooked, I don't care. Since I'm, like, outright being suspicious of her, I was gonna do a grand reveal later, but I guess I should just give it to her right now. That's crazy that I'm suspicious of the main character in chapter 3. Anyway, part of the reason why I was suspicious and why I think that she killed Mark is because, and why I think it was an accident, personally, I think it was an accident, is because Porkchop doesn't ask about Mark. Maggie said, and this is where I stopped reading, and I was like, okay, hold on, I have to get all of these things out. I can no longer actively hold them in my head. Maggie, in New York, meets up with Porkchop and says that she has to go to Trace's apartment. Porkchop asks, how's Trace? Where is he? Because, again, he's overseas, like, providing care for people. But he doesn't ask about Mark. We don't know where Mark is. Why would your own dad not ask about you? Unless he likes Maggie more. Either way, that is where we left off. Porkchop talking to Maggie about Trace. Where is he? How's he doing? When last you heard about him? She gets a little cagey, but like, why are you asking? And like, no, I heard he's fine. He's in Bulgaria, I think. I don't know for sure. No one knows. You know what I mean? Trying to add distance. And I was like, something interesting is happening here, and I don't know what it is. But do you see why I had to stop at chapter 3 and be like, I have to talk to you guys. I have to talk to you guys. After I registered for class. That was such a stupid reaction. I'm so sorry. Okay, register for class. But now do you see why I had to, like, stop to talk to you guys and be like, I'm so little in the book. Like, I'm really not that far in, but I was like, there's so many names that seem important, and there are so many places that we've been talking about, and it's not like they're being thrown away. You know, like, mom and dad are kind of thrown away because, like, dead parents, alright? Like, they're kind of being thrown away, but everyone has, like, a backstory, and everyone has a relationship with each other, which is also why I think this is a good use of my big blank wall. So, that's where we are. I wanted to record this first thing in the morning because I realized I left you guys kind of on a cliffhanger. I'm so sorry. But I am going to get to recording. Hopefully my adapter comes by the next time I have to film, because this, again, is just loosely on here. So hopefully that's in, so I'm not like, hello, or cheat to the microphone. So far, it's good. I think the story's good so far. I did wear my partner's USMC t-shirt. I want it to be clear, I'm not endorsing the military or administration, not in the slightest, baby. But unfortunately, my partner was in the military, and I like wearing his shirts. And also, I thought it was thematically appropriate, right? Fun! You know me, I love to dress in theme. If you're wondering if I can tell it's written by two different people, the answer is yes. But not in the way that you would normally think. It's not like, I hate to bring it up again, but the March series. This is written by mother and daughter duo, PC Cast and Kristen Cast, right? You can tell when it's the mom versus when it's the daughter, and it's a very, very clear distinction. From line to line, you can tell when the two different people are writing. Just the language shifts and changes. I need to put this down. Versus with this guy, you can't, it's not as drastic, and it's more in large swaths. So I would believe, personally, as someone with no knowledge of how this was written, I would believe that Reese Witherspoon helped with the story structure and with the dialogue, but that Harlan Coben was more in charge of the prose and the structure, the more technical aspects, you know? And so you can kind of tell, but it's not distracting in any way. And I don't want to metagame here, but that's also why I'm kind of obsessed with Maggie. Crazy jump. Because specifically, if Reese Witherspoon, someone with experience with movies and TV shows, and with a love of books, it feels very movie to bring up the theme of admitting unrequited love once at the very beginning, just for it to pull all the way back around at the very end. You know what I mean? Keep in mind, we haven't even gotten to the guy who's gone missing yet. Okay, I'm gonna start reading. This is crazy. I'll check in with you next I have thoughts. Okay, new angle. I'm short now. I mean, I'll always short. Let me be completely honest. But I'm shorter in frame now. Because I made my tripod too tall and I'm not fixing it. Whatever. So much has happened. Okay, so much has happened. I am on chapter 6. I just started chapter 6, which is page... Let me check. Page 84. Oh my god, it feels like so much more has happened since then. I'm on page 84, chapter 6, and we got a lot to talk about. Okay, last we left off, Maggie was with Porkchop, and I was suspicious of her killing Mark. I don't know if I'm suspicious of her killing Mark, but I am still suspicious of her. But I'm more convinced that Mark is dead, I'll be completely honest, for a few reasons, and I think it's obvious. Alright, so, like, even with the FaceTime calls that they have, and that she talks to him fairly often, like, it's fairly obvious that he's dead, so I'm gonna just... arms of an angel. It was nice knowing you. I cut out better exes. So she goes to Tad's apartment. It's kind of awkward. Like, Porkchop is really sad, which is, again, why Mark's dead. He's really sad. He can't look at the apartment building. He's like, yeah, just, go by yourself. And my boy's sad. And we find out Maggie and Mark had an apartment within the same building because it was close to where they're doing the residency. So the three of them rented apartments in the same building but different floors. She promised Trace that she would go and check in his apartment if she was ever in New York, just to make sure things are kind of tidy. Everything is in the right place. No one's lived there, but it feels like there's a cleaning person that comes regularly. All of his bills are on autopay. She just took up the mail for him, basically. It seems like something either something that no one is surprised that she did, which is what I'm thinking it is, or something that she has done in the past, because the doorman tells her, we put all of his mail in a box for you, right? Okay. Before she goes up, she mentions Porkchop's biker gang tattoo, the Serpent and Saint logo. It is a fanged snake with a halo, and it is said that Mark had, H-A-D, had the same tattoo. It was on his quad. It was on his thigh, and it had big, goofy cartoon eyeballs. It's the same logo that his dad wears, and he has a tattoo of, and all of the bikers wear. One of them is named Pinky, okay? They all have fun nicknames. But yeah, I wanted to point out, page 34, Mark had a tattoo. Interesting, but here's the thing. We immediately go into a flashback where the rest of the context around it is also in the past tense. We immediately go into a flashback because we're at Trace's apartment, right? So yeah, I'm like 99% sure that he's dead. Which is fine. I have one piece of evidence that I'll bring up when it comes time for it. But Maggie's sad. She goes up into Trace's apartment and she sees the Thumper 7 Ta. Capital THUMPR 7 TAC TAH. It was an artificial heart. TAH standing for total artificial heart. And it was something that the three of them were working on and patenting because it would have been the first fully artificial heart that could have been put into someone, but it didn't work, and that's all that we know about it. But Trace has a display of it, and there's a diagram that is signed by two world-renowned cardiologists. Okay, so we know it's important. There's a lot of medical terminology in this. I'll be completely honest. I'll do my best. But he has that on his desk. We also learn that Trace has not a P.O. box. What's it called? A bank box. Safety deposit box. That's what it is. I worked at a bank. Whatever. He has 3 safety deposit boxes. Two of them are 10 by 10 inches, and then one of them is 3 foot by 6 foot. Which I didn't even know that they offered safety deposit boxes that big, I'll be completely honest. That's like the size of a person. That's big. That's like a coffin. And at this point I asked, is Trace also dead? So she opens his mail. She commits a federal crime. She opens his mail, and that's where she finds out about the safety deposit box. I keep on saying P.O. box. The safety deposit boxes, because there is a past due bill from Wells Fargo. And she snaps a picture and she sends it to him, and she says no response. He hasn't responded in a long time. I'm assuming, again, I'm still suspicious of Maggie. I'm assuming that he doesn't respond to her because he blames her for Mark's death, or he's dead. Those are my 2 options. But if that's the case, I don't think that she would have a key to his apartment, so he might also be dead. Options. Maggie also points out it's not weird that he would have a safety deposit box. It's weird how many he has and how big they are, because the only thing that he would have that would be worthy of putting in a safety deposit box is this $20,000 emerald ring that his mother used to wear. They don't mention how she had it or why she had it, just that his entire life, she never took it off her finger, and when she passed, she left it to him. He got it appraised, to find out it was $20,000. So when she sees safety deposit box, she assumes that's what it is, but then she's like, this doesn't make sense, and then he never responds. She goes back downstairs, back to Porkchop, right? We also very quickly learn, and this is not relevant in the slightest, but it's relevant to me because it has to do with my boy Porkchop. We learned that this man was groomed. And it has nothing to do with the story, mind you. It has nothing to do with the story. When he was 17, it's, okay, in the story, it's written that he impregnated his math teacher, who was 37. I think the better word is he was groomed by his math teacher at 17, and she ended up pregnant. I think that's a better way to phrase it, I'm just saying, because that man was groomed. And she was married with kids, and she was going to abort it, and he was like, no, I want to be a dad. I want to be a dad. Where is he? I want to be a dad. I want to be a dad. I will tell the authorities right now unless you give me my kid and give me full custody. And that's how we ended up with Mark. What does that have to do with the story? What does that have to do with anything? Poor Mark. His mom does not get a name tag because she's dead to me. Not even dead in the important way. She gets nothing. I don't like her. She's a criminal pedophile. Anyway, like a flashback of a mission. Like, it's very obvious that she has PTSD from being in an active war zone. She did 2 tours in Iraq. And so it's very obvious that she has active PTSD. And she remembers the names of all the patients that she lost. And it sits with her. And she dreams about scenarios of where she could have done better and they could have lived, right? She blames herself for a lot of this. In Trace's apartment, there is an image of the two of them in a helicopter. I don't remember which one. My partner would be disappointed in me. I don't remember the make and model. But it's them in a helicopter trying to save 2 different patients. And Trace saves his, but she doesn't save hers. And there's a flashback to him taking her to a local village to give out lollipops to children. And to talk with locals and to eat local food and to engross themselves in the living because the dead never leave us. But to, like, remind yourself of what it means to live, right? And so we have that big flashback. It's very clear she has PTSD. She leaves Trace's apartment, really sad, and Porkchop is like, hey, let's go get fucked up, baby girl. And she goes, okay. So they go back to Vipers, and she gets drunk, and she wakes up the next morning. Again, PTSD dreams, dreaming of doing better. She wakes up the next morning to her alarm in this luxurious fucking hotel. And again, she wakes up from these dreams where she could have saved them. All of them. They only list 5 names. I'm assuming that more than 5 people died in an active war zone. But they list 5 names of people who she's thinking of, right? Mark is not one of the names. But she wakes up, she enjoys this luxurious shower. The hotel is like all included. So they're like, no, let us make you a delicious 4-course breakfast. And she goes, no, I just want coffee. I am uncomfortable by all of this, which is smart. I like that she's not like, she's suspicious. And I like that about her. I love that in a woman. They're a little suspicious. And she video calls Mark while getting ready for the day. And it mentioned that he picks up on the first ring and that they just chat for a little bit. She realized, oh, I'm going to be late. And she just hangs up the phone, puts it in her pocket. It's a weird conversation. It's like a snippet of like, hey, I saw your dad yesterday. Oh, how is he? Oh, he's good. And then one more line and then, oh, I'm going to be late. I gotta go. Puts her on, but she doesn't say bye and she doesn't say I love you. I tell my partner, I almost said husband, I tell my partner, bye, love you, when he goes to the bathroom. So I'm still suspicious of Maggie. And so that was another tally in the Mark is dead category, right? But our girl does not run late. She's a no-nonsense bitch, and I really, really like that about her. She goes downstairs, the black car is ready for her, and who is waiting and ready for her, if not, Ivan Broski. He is a liaison for our super secret, super special client. If you can hear my tape, I'm sorry. We'll put him over here in an island all by himself. Ivan or Ivan. He's Russian. He's Russian, but he doesn't speak with much of a Russian accent. Maggie immediately clocks that he probably grew up speaking English his entire life. Probably in London. I don't know why probably in London. She doesn't mention him having an English accent, but that's her observations. That he was born Russian, grew up speaking English, okay? Liaison. Big burly guy. She describes him as someone wearing a well-fitted, tailored suit, but no matter what, it will never fit him because his body is not built to be in suits. And I was like, oh, okay. I like that. Good for him, you know? So Dr. Barlow leaves her with Ivan. Apparently he goes straight into surgery. straight from coming in, saying hi, and then dipping and going straight into surgery. I don't believe that. There's something about that that's very interesting. Simply because, and I'm like, I know I'm suspicious of our girl Maggie, but I do ride for our girl Maggie. And she makes note of him walking in that he's wearing a surgical cap, but he doesn't give off the impression that he's either leaving surgery or about to go into surgery. And as a world-renowned surgeon, I'm going to take her word for it, you know? So the fact that he immediately goes into surgery after like 2 minutes of just entering and leaving a room is a little suspicious to me. So he might also be dead. Who knows? But we meet Evan. Now I don't know how to pronounce it. God. I'm going to say Ivan, all right? And he tells Maggie everything. Kind of everything. He doesn't tell her everything. He doesn't answer for everything. So he tells her that his employer wants to fly her to Russia, to Rublevka. Forgive me, I do not speak Russian. Rublevka? I feel like a fraud if I don't say it like I'm asking a question. So Ivan tells her that his employer wants to have some sort of reconstructive surgery done, and that she's the best in the business, and that, which he does give off all of her accolades, and she does seem to be like the best in the business, and that they need someone who is discreet, they need someone who can get this done, and they need her, basically. To which she fires off a lot of questions of, I would need a permit, I would need this, I would need that. And he basically spells out, like, if you do this, one, we have that all done. We have all your permits ready. We have the surgical room ready. We have your 2 nurses. We have the anesthesiologist. We have everything ready. You just need to say yes. And if you say yes, your debt, your sister's debt, and your malpractice lawsuit will be taken care of permanently. To which she's like, I thought I had a good poker face, but I don't. What do you mean? What do you mean? And he was like, everything will be taken care of. Don't you worry. To which she chews it over. And my bitch, I love her. She looks at him, she goes, 2 weeks will be a long time to be away. And he can't help but respect it, and neither could I. She asked for more money. I know that, like, your crippling debt and your life that is swallowing you up, all of those problems would be answered. But she's not short-sighted. She's like, but I should also be paid for my work. I should be paid for my time. You're plucking me out of my home country. Yeah, I want more than that. And he's like, aight, cool. We'll give you $10 million. Huh? Damn. I love that she asked for more money. Insane that the first answer was $10 million. You're not going to try to haggle a little bit, Ivan? I mean, if it's like a multi-billionaire, I guess you don't have to haggle. I guess it's just like, this is a number I know that's going to get people to shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? I love that Ivan had that in his back pocket. He had permission to do that, and he just wasn't going to unless she said something. And he liked her gumption. Because he's trying to, like, butter her up and play it cool and listing all her accolades, and she went, shut the fuck up. She didn't say that. I'm saying that. But she said, shut up. Shut up. I served in the... Actually, why didn't she say that? Sorry, she tells him, I'm a military brat who's been military trained my entire life. Okay, found it. Page 56. Brovsky nods. When you were in college, you took a course called Modern Russian History with Professor Tubman. I nearly forgot. Do you know when I got my first hickey? What? I bet your researchers missed that. 7th grade. A game of spin the bottle with Mitch Glassman. You can stop with the I know it all intimidation tactics, Ivan. I'm a military brat who grew up military trained. I know the program. Get on with it. Fair enough, Brusky said, amused. But I think you see what we're after. Page 56. That's when I really clocked that I was like, oh, this isn't someone who has seen combat, but has only ever talked to people who have seen combat, because no one who has served 1 tour, let alone 2, would call themselves a military brat before calling themselves a veteran. And I'm like, why didn't you mention that you served 2 services? What's it called? 2 rounds? My partner's gonna laugh at me. She did 2 whatever in Afghanistan. Like, she is well seasoned. But no, I'm a military brat. I grew up like this. My daddy trained me like this. That does feel weird. But I'm not gonna harp on that too long. Anyway, the point is, she said, shut the fuck up. And what do you want? And run me my check. And I love that for her. I love that she is suspicious. I like that she is suspicious and that even with her back up against the wall, she still, like, got that dog in her. You know what I mean? But anyway, she takes the $10 million because who wouldn't, right? Oh, I also didn't know, I didn't mention it, but, Rublevka is like a super wealthy area right outside of Moscow. It is an area that she's never been, but she knows of. It's not in the middle of nowhere. It's not, we're taking to the remote island in the middle of the Pacific. You know what I mean? Which I don't think it would have mattered either way, just because I know where Arkansas is. If you drop me in the middle of Arkansas, I'm lost for good. I'm never getting home. I'm Odysseus all of a sudden, you know? I guess I'd be Odysseus if you dropped me in Oregon, but the point still stands because I couldn't get out of Oregon either. Anyway, she goes back downstairs, upstairs, she gets in the elevator, goes back in the car, where her phone is waiting. She had to leave her phone behind because phones are not allowed in the building. Turns it back on, 10 missed calls from Sharon. I was right, it is Sharon, but I wrote Shannon, and then I said Sharon, and I second-guessed myself. But it is Sharon. But she has 10 missed calls from Sharon, who's going, hey, where are you? What are you doing? I just got a call that all of my debts have been paid. Everything has been paid, which I think she's meant to be like, oh my god, all the debts have been paid. I'm reading it like, hey, what the fuck did you do? Why have they been paid? You know, that's the energy that Sharon gives me. But so she's calling her sister, hey, what's going on? Her sister's like, hey, I have a job. Don't ask questions, don't worry about it, I'll be gone for 2 weeks, I'll be back. I have a job. And Sharon's like, what the fuck do you mean you have a job? What do you mean you're practicing medicine again? You can't, what do you mean? To which Maggie is like, I didn't say I was practicing medicine. Just know I have a job and I'll be back in 2 weeks. It is highly confidential and there are HIPAA laws, which is a get out of jail free card if you're a surgeon. I don't want to tell you, HIPAA. Most people don't know what HIPAA laws are. I mean, they do, but they don't know, like, what they cover. So, HIPAA, not my business. You know what I mean? But Maggie has to leave immediately. And she'll be back in 2 weeks. Off they go to the airport. She's like, I have to go to the Amman to pick up my stuff and to check on their it's done already. And she's like, I'm sick and tired of you saying it's done. Stop saying that. But sure enough, it's done. They've checked her out. They packed her bags. It's in the trunk already. Which means she wasn't in there that long. That means that someone, as she left the hotel, someone walked up the hotel into the room. Which would piss me off, personally. I hate when people touch my stuff. I would say no just for that. You know? I wouldn't. $10 million is a lot of money. You can touch all my shit for $10 million. But I digress. She grabs all of her stuff. Off to the airport they go. She is not allowed to call anyone for the next 2 weeks. At all. No phone calls, no messaging apps, no social media, no internet, it seems like. So, before she gets on the plane, she takes a minute to call her people. And since she just called her sister, she decides to call Porkchop next. To which Porkchop says, hey, put me on speaker. And when she does, he says, M47235. And what's that? Yeah, that's the license plates. And as he reads it out, 2 bitches on motorcycles comes riding up, Pinky and the other one. He didn't get a name. She called him Bowling Ball in her head. But up on either side, and they're like, hey, flanking the car. And Porkchop goes, I need my daughter-in-law to be safe and sound, okay? Don't make me come find you. To which Ivan says, same. Game recognizes game. And then that's it. And then they're at the airport and she's on the plane. So I'm like, yeah, you didn't call Mark. You didn't call him at all. There's not even a line of like, oh, I thought to call him, but he wouldn't answer at this hour. Nothing. Didn't think anything of it. So that man is dead. Dead. And that was my last piece of evidence that he's dead. And I don't care if he's ever mentioned in this book again. I'm just glad that I caught on that very early on. And not only can Maggie not call anyone, but she gets on the plane and she wants to start researching Russian oligarchs and Russian billionaires. And there's no Wi-Fi on the plane. They offer her a drink, to which she says no. I forgot to mention this. When she was in her hotel, she reminisces on drinking until she blacked out at the Viper, right? She drinks at the Viper, she blacks out, she wakes up from a dream of being able to save people that she couldn't save, right? She wakes up from that dream and reminisces on drinking and how at least alcohol was never her vice. No, her problem was always with pills. So she had a pill issue. We can assume that she was high on pills when someone died on her table, and that's what the lawsuit is about that has now been settled. It's been dropped. Anyway, yeah, she was addicted to pills. And she doesn't want to say addicted because after the incident happened, she stopped cold turkey. And she's like, well, would it be considered an addiction if I could stop cold turkey just whenever I wanted? I think that's a trauma response, babe. Anyway, she's on the plane. She wants to Google Russian oligarchs. There's no Wi-Fi. And she decides to go lay down and watch TV because there's a full king-size bed with a very famous piece of art behind it. Does it say, did I write down who it was by? No. I kind of wish I did. This is where I first noticed it, but this book references a lot of famous art pieces and artists by name. And I took 1 year of art history. And so, like, some of the names ring a bell, but I don't know any of them off the top of my head. But there's a whole thing about, like, art pieces, and we'll get there in a second. But on this plane, she's in the master bedroom. She's on the bed. And above the bed, there's this huge art by, like, a mastre or something. And she asks, like, oh, it's not like it's an original, right? To which they're like, haha, and leave. And then she lays down and watches TV, and she assumes that she's too stressed out to sleep. She's too on edge to sleep, right? She lays down, she wakes up 10 hours later. And her first thought, which was also mine, was, did they drug me? She didn't have any alcohol, but she did have a glass of water. And only a glass of water. So it's possible, but she doesn't feel like she's been drugged, right? So she gets ready. They had a wardrobe on the plane for her. She didn't clock this, but I am. They say that the hostess tells her, hey, we laid your clothes out. They're ready. You're going to want to put on the hat, the coat, and the gloves. You're going to need it. And sure enough, that they had not only laid out her clothes, but they had also have a full 100%, she's assuming, and so am I, 100% real fur, full-length coat with matching hat and matching gloves, and they fit her perfectly. This would have, and maybe I'm not. I was gonna say maybe I'm not a skinny bitch, but maybe I'm not a skinny bitch. I'm not. Okay, I'm 5'2" and I'm chunky. If something off the rack is fitting me right away, I'm like, what sorcery? What witch did you pay to tailor this to me? Because nothing fits me. Nothing fits me. So I would be suspicious. I don't know, maybe she's just like a normal average sized person and has no problem finding clothes. But that, what do you mean the full length coat fits you perfectly and the gloves fit perfectly? She gets dressed, she goes outside, and she really very quickly realizes they're not in Rublevka? They're not in Rublevka. They're not there. Gets off the plane, goes in a helicopter, and there is nothing around. And Rublevka should be near Moscow. You should be able to at least see it on the horizon. You should see something, and she sees nothing. And she's like, well, I'm here already. Okay. Interesting. And they pull up. Do you pull up if it's a helicopter? Pull down? They pull down to a palace, for lack of a better word. And this is where the art references really start to crank up. She compares it to every other palace that she has been blessed to have seen. Many different palaces all over the globe. Did I write any of them down? No. Bunch of different palaces. And she talks about their history and how they are worn and how you can still feel their ghost roaming the halls, even the ones that are kept in really good condition. But they have seen history. Versus this palace is pristine. Pristine in a way that does not make sense. It's a fraud. It's a fake. It's newly made to be made to look old. Because the marble is too clean, there are not chips, there are no cracks, there's nothing. It's too perfect. And as she walks across the lawn to get to the front, the grass is so green it looks painted, and it's warm under her feet. That's weird. Everything about it is a little unsettling to her. The grass being warm is very unsettling to me, personally. And as she enters, she passes by these marble statues. Michelangelo's David, one of them. Someone else's Adam. A bunch of these famous statues. Again, of course, I remember only David and Adam. But she passes these statues, and they are perfect replicas, but they don't look quite right. They're perfect replicas, but they're bright white. And they look almost soulless. They're perfect reproductions, but something about them is just a little off. But she can't take too long to think about it, because next she meets Oleg Grigorovich. He got money. Grigorovich was not going to fit on the card, so we see Oleg in big letters, and right underneath it says Grigorovich. I'm going to call him Oleg. Oleg was a name that came up on her very quick searches in like the 4 minutes before they took off on the airplane that she was able to get on the whole Russian barons and Russian oligarchs. We'll put Oleg here in his own little corner, in his own little chair. So Grigorovich is a name that she did find when looking up Russian oligarchs and Russian billionaires and Russian billionaires / recluses, but that didn't really mean anything. So she's familiar with the name, but really nothing else, because there's also nothing about the guy. As with any of the names, she was able to find some names, but none of them had any real information on them. So there was nowhere, she wanted to deep dive on someone, but there was no one to deep dive on. All she kind of knows is that his wealth is attributed to metals, and that's it. And she meets him, and her first impression is that he's wearing like skinny jeans and like a silk shirt that's way too tight. His hair is just fully oiled back, just an oil slick. An oily kind of guy. She doesn't really like him. And he seems like a cartoon villain of a man, I'll be completely honest. She's like, hey, it's nice to meet you. He goes in for a hug. She shakes his hand. And she's like, I would like to see the surgical facilities, right? He then takes her on a tour around the palace. And he's taking her around the palace and he's showing off all of his wealth. And she's trying not to be impressed by it. It's kind of hard because it is impressive to have this much wealth. But he's trying not to until she comes across 4 particular paintings. And he's keen to talk, so he's like, oh, do you like? And she was like, they're not real, are they? And they start talking about the paintings, and he mentioned that there's something peculiar about them. And she clocks that, and she mentions, yeah, no, these are the paintings from the famous garden heist. But these aren't the real ones, are they? And he is thrilled that she knows that. Who the fuck knows that? I'm sure people do. Everyone loves true crime. I love true crime, personally. But she specifically likes art heists. And it hasn't been mentioned up until this point. And, like, I guess that makes sense. We're only 80 pages in. But, okay, it feels, like, really out of left field that she's, like, a fan of art heists, right? And so much so that she remembers the garden heist. I mean, how many famous art heists are there? You know what I mean? But she remembers the garden heist, and she knows it was these 4 paintings. And she asks, are they real? And he says, one of them. And she asks, which one? He goes, I'll never tell. Cartoon of a villain man, right? But because she's interested in art, he then goes to show her he has 3 perfect copies of the Mona Lisa. Everyone loves the Mona Lisa. Everyone loves to use the Mona Lisa in their art references, right? But the Mona Lisa, to which she's like, you don't have the real Mona Lisa. No, you don't. And they go on this weird art history lesson of when the Mona Lisa was originally stolen in 1911, but it was really stolen and then returned 2 years later in 1913. To which he questions, do you think that really happened? That this art thief that was able to steal the most precious artwork in the entire world would get caught just 2 years later? He ended up, like, he wanted to sell it, and the guy was like, hey, let me get my friend who is not the custodian, the curator for another famous museum so he can authenticate it for me. And the guy goes, sure. And so Oleg is like, you believe that? That he just went, yeah, sure. Just get your guy who works in museums to come verify. Because naturally, they just called the police, and then he was caught, and he turned himself in, and he admitted everything. And Oleg was like, I can't believe that you would actually believe that. And she's like, okay. So? And so he ends up telling her about the Decker article, where there's a conspiracy theory, and I'm not Googling this. I don't know if this is a real conspiracy theory. This has nothing to do with me, I don't care. But there's a Decker article and forgive me, this gets kind of confusing. It's not super important, but it is, and just bear with me. In those 2 years that the Mona Lisa was missing, a man named Decker had 6 copies made. And since no one knew where the Mona Lisa was, he was able to sell those 6 copies all across the globe, telling everyone, this is the real one, this is the real one. I stole it, I have a hookup. And he ended up selling all of them for a total of like $90 million. Does that take into account inflation? I don't know. But $90 million, okay? But then when the real Mona Lisa came to light, he changed his name, ran away, because you could do that in the 1920s. Changed his name, ran away, no one ever found him. Made away with millions, right? Okay, but the person who did the forgeries, this is the important part, the person who did the forgeries, the theory goes, the person who did the forgeries, those 6 forgeries, also did a forgery for the guy who stole the Mona Lisa. So Decker's over here, forgery guy, the guy who stole the Mona Lisa. I should have written down his name, but he did the replicas for Decker and for the original Mona Lisa, because the guy who stole the Mona Lisa wanted to take the real Mona Lisa, give back a replica, and then either keep or sell the real one, right? But Maggie asked, the point is, Maggie asked, so these 3 Mona Lisas are 3 of the 6 replicas. What happened to the other 3? He goes, he doesn't know. It's very possible, he doesn't own them, but it's very possible that when the Mona Lisa, the original, was returned, that the owners of them either destroyed them or hid them away out of shame and embarrassment for paying so much money for a fake, right? But so far, he's collected 3 of them. And she says, oh, are they all forgeries? Or are they all from the Decker articles or whatever? And he goes, haha, no. The guy who did the forgery for the original thief did a switcheroo and actually made 2 replicas and gave 1 replica here, 1 replica there, and kept the original for himself. And he hung it above his mantle for years and years and years until his great-granddaughter decided to sell it. And that's when he ended up buying it in, like, 1930s. And he was originally looking only for the forgeries, but he got it carbon dated and x-rayed and everything. And turns out he has the real Mona Lisa. It's such a convoluted story, and I was like, I don't care. It was such a convoluted story, and it pissed me off. But the point is, Oleg has 3 Mona Lisas, 2 fakes, 1 real, and he will not say which is real. Are you getting the theme that is being laid out here before us? This idea of perfect copies and plastic surgery and replacing and replicas and not knowing who is the real, who or what is the real deal, right? Ugh. And the point is, it's kind of dumb. And not only is it dumb, but, like, okay, Oleg, not only does he really like this theme, but he also, again, cartoon villain. He thinks that the forger, who I actually did write the name of, it's Chaudron, Chaudron, he thinks that the forger, having his forgery live in the Louvre in the place of the original Mona Lisa, and, like, being taken for real, that's the real piece of art, that's immortality. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then he goes on to compare this whole real Mona Lisa to fake Mona Lisa bullshit to religion. And that, isn't it interesting, and isn't it just like religion, that there is only one true religion, but no one knows exactly what it is? And everyone's trying to find the real thing, but no one really knows. And I'm like, what fucking deep thoughts Reddit did you pull this shit from, Oleg? He gets on my nerves. Oleg, and he's supposed to get on your nerves. But he was getting on my nerves at this point in particular. And part of me thinks that's supposed to be part of the point, that he thinks he's so rich and so smart and that he's saying these deep things, but they're really not that deep. That's what I assumed. But then I was going over my notes to start filming, and I was like, but the rest of the book is also kind of like this. Like, for instance, I have a quote here. It's on page 39, and it has 990 highlights, but it's, quote, scratch the surface of a person doing good works, and you'll find someone who fears the mundane and conventional. When Maggie is looking back as to why Trace and Mark and her, why they started World Cures, and what it's like to go from a combat zone to civilian life, and how, like, this fear of the mundane and the fear of the boring, and, like, people who want to do good and extraordinary things are doing it out of this, like, selfish want to be a hero. And you heard me on my hero diatribe at the beginning of this. You don't get to call yourself a hero, but, like, this want to be special, and that to do good is because you want to feel special. And like, that's kind of how the book is written, and I don't personally agree with that. And it doesn't matter whether I agree with that or not. The thing that sticks out to me as someone who not only is my partner, former military, but I went to art school. And I don't know about you, but a lot of my classmates were former military just because they could afford to go to school. And so they figured, why not go live my dream I wanted to do before the military? Because of the GI Bill, right? And a common theme that I find with veterans, and again, I am not a veteran. I'm slouching so you can't see my shirt because I don't want you to think there's no stolen valor here, okay? I am not a veteran. This is just an outside looking in of how people talk about their experience and their life from someone who loves to listen to stories. A lot of veterans talk about trying to find purpose again. That in the military, there's a lot of structure and there's a lot of rules, and you feel like you're working towards a bigger purpose. The thing that drives them is purpose and wanting to feel like they're doing something that matters. Not because of the rush and the thrill. And maybe it's different with medical. You know, maybe it's different when you're doing medical stuff. But again, this is coming from someone who has met with a lot of veterans and who have heard their stories. I should not have worn this shirt. I feel weird wearing that shirt because I'm not former military. But anyway, the point is that the book so far I'm not the biggest fan of because it feels like this shallow outlook that is trying to be deep. And there are a lot of genuine frustrations that are being expelled through this book, like the idea of like when Maggie thinks of her mom at the very beginning of the book. She talks about remembering her parents in their dated living room where they had all these friends over and they could have debates and they could drink and have debates with each other back when debates weren't meant to spark anger but were meant to spark discussion, right? And that's another line that is really, really highlighted by a lot of people. And I think that felt very genuine, that felt very real. There's other stuff that wants to feel real and wants to feel deep and wants to feel like big thoughts don't feel real to me. The Oleg thing, I do believe. I will say that one I do believe that's meant to be like a caricature of like a rich man, you know? He's meant to be oily and greasy and gross. Like that one, yes. But you have that, and then it's compared to the thoughts of the main character, and it's like, but they both feel the same level of shallowness. I don't know if I'm gonna keep any of that in. It might not matter at the end of the day. That's where we are so far. Oh, I lied. And he ends up taking her to the surgery suite, and it is a perfect replica of Johns Hopkins, where she did her residency. Residency? No, Johns Hopkins is where she did... I'm keeping it a buck with you. I don't know how medical school works. It's where she did some studies with Mark and Dr. Barlow. And so she wonders, like, hey, was Dr. Barlow supposed to do this? But it doesn't matter if anyone was supposed to do this. The surgery suite could have already been here, and they only needed a few hours to reorganize and give everything a fresh coat of paint. Like, this could be just for me. It could have been for him, or it just could mean nothing. Girl, I'm gonna need you to be more suspicious like you were a second ago, okay? And maybe she was drugged. Maybe that's why she's not being suspicious. But, like, it is a perfect one-to-one replica. They're like, we had people go in and take measurements and do everything to your liking, and she's not suspicious enough for me, in my opinion. She's been so suspicious up until now, but now she's like, there's probably a reasonable explanation for this. But they exit the surgical suite, and they end up coming across the pool, where they meet Nadia. Nadia is Oleg's girlfriend. She is 28 at most, and he's like 70. And Maggie's like, I shouldn't be too shocked by this, I'll be completely honest. But she is shocked when Oleg is like, yeah, that's your second patient. And Maggie's like, okay, I'm Dr. Maggie McCabe, you can call me Maggie, right? She sticks her hand out, to which Nadia doesn't take it. And Oleg is like, yeah, no, she doesn't speak English. And Maggie's like, okay, then I'm not going to operate on her without her permission. I need to know that she knows what she's getting into. Oleg then rattles off a bunch of things in Russian, and to which Nadia goes, okay, in a really thick Russian accent. And then he says something else, and then she goes, okay, with more enthusiasm, right? And Maggie's like, fuck that. I'm not doing that. I I need a physical examination and a consultation from both of you, and I need her to be able to consent to having surgery. Because this entire time, he's talking about how he wants her to have a bigger ass, bigger tits, that she's too flat. Keep in mind, she's a swimmer and she's curvy and she's beautiful, and Maggie's like, this is the most stunning woman I've ever seen. What are you talking about? I'm putting my shirt back on. But Oleg is like, yeah, no, she needs, I like a woman with a bigger chest and a bigger ass. And Maggie's like, I'm not gonna do that unless she consents, and I know that's what she wants. And he says, what I want is what she wants. What's the problem? So again, a cartoon villain of a man, but also the most believable part I've seen so far. And Maggie does not take this lying down. He tries to dismiss her, he tries to walk away. She puts her feet down, she refuses to move. I will not operate on her unless I do an examination with her alone, and I have her express permission and her express consent to do anything. And he goes, fine, my physician will be here, you'll get all your medical records, and he'll do the thing on me, and you can check over Nadia. And then he leaves, and he's like, I have things I need to do for tonight for the ball. You'll be there, by the way. I expect to see you. I can answer more of your questions. Then Nadia's ready for you in the next room. He's, like, tapping away on his phone. I have to go. And she's like, ball? What do you mean? What do you mean a ball? And he goes, yes, I expect you to be there. And she goes, okay, but as your physician, he goes, I know. No food, no drink, nothing after midnight. Don't worry about it. I will see you later. Go talk to Nadia. But that was the end of chapter 5. And at the start of chapter 6, I got a little sneak peek because my eyes jumped them out of the page. Nadia speaks fluent English. She just pretends to be dumb because she doesn't want them to know she speaks English. So I'm going to go read because I want to know what the fuck is up with that, personally. But yeah, our board grows bigger. My guess, I don't know who it's going to be just yet because this seems like a guy who everyone hates. Personally, I think Oleg is trying to get himself turned into someone else, like a perfect replica of another person, and then he's going to run away with his billions of dollars because he did some sort of crime, right? And that Maggie is, one, suspect because he disappears on her watch, but two, because all of his money, that is criminal money, has now been sent to her and could look at money laundering. That's why it's the $10 million. And that I don't think Nadia is meant to look like anyone. I think he genuinely does want her to just get big tits and a big ass. And I don't know what Nadia's deal is, but I hope that she has a plan here. I want her to be in love with Ivan. They haven't even interacted, but it's another name on the wall. So I think that'll be fun. But that's where we are so far. And we'll see. There's a lot of mystery here, and like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of the writing style. It seems very straight to the point. Like, he said this, she did that. He stood up, she followed him. Like, it's a lot of short sentences like that, so I'm not the biggest fan of the writing style. But that could just be me. That's just a stylistic choice. I like something a little more flowery. That's a personal preference. I know a lot of people hate flowery language. But yeah, so far it seems a little shallow, and so far it seems a little flat. But hopefully now that the ball is finally rolling, we can get this party started. All right. I hope Nadia has a plan.
I can't believe this. Okay, I feel so dumb. Okay, I feel so dumb. Focus. I'm not doing this clip in blurry. Okay, no, I feel so dumb. So, she had a meeting with Nadia. Nadia speaks English, the whole thing, whatever. She consents to the surgery. And Maggie never once considers, why is she consenting to this surgery? And she speaks English and didn't tell anyone she speaks English. No, she still must be being coerced, which she could be. She absolutely could be. Not, she must have ulterior motives. This is an old man who she might murder eventually. It's not my business, which would be my first thought. But she calls Mark. She's been FaceTiming Mark this entire time. And she starts talking to him. Like normal, she clicks the blue call button. What it is, it's her sister and her ex-husband's fucking AI app. Did I tell you about this? Right? Oh, the monster! Hi, Mama! The mamas. She needs to hear this too. Okay. She's not allowed to make phone calls. She's not allowed to make outgoing messages. She shouldn't be able to because there's no Wi-Fi. What's the twist? She used that app to recreate Mark so she can talk to him when she's missing him and feels lonely and doesn't know what to do. I still think she killed him, and that's why she's so racked with guilt. Personally. I'm glad I called it that he was dead within the first chapter, I will say. It's not that hard of a twist to figure out, but I am still proud of myself nonetheless. But I feel fucking dumb. She's using her sister and her sister's ex-husband's app that caused their separation and that threw her sister into like deep debt because his dad is a judge, and so like the settlement agreement basically fucked her over because he took all of their patents for all the technology that mostly she worked on to make this app that is a subscription-based model, and she's using that to talk to her dead husband. The app that ruined her sister's life.
You would use it to talk to me?
Not if the app ruined my brother's life.
But it's the only way you could talk to me.
I'm fine grieving you.
You're not gonna bring me back?
Yeah, you want me to bring you back from the dead? But, what'd you say?
Demi Lich.
I'm not making you a demi-lich. I'm not doing that. No, I don't think I could use it no matter how much I loved you or missed you if the thing I was actively using was the thing that ruined my sibling's life. Caused her to start drinking regularly and start relying on alcohol, and like causes my niece or nephew like a severe amount of pain because like the partner that is benefiting from this app is like causing their family like turmoil. Like they have to sell the house. They have nowhere to live. They can't afford to live. Even with her sister working 24/7 because like Maggie, because she lost her license, Maggie can't work. I mean, now she's working and she made $10 million, but before that, she couldn't work. And so one person supporting a household of 3, one of which being a teenage boy who probably eats them out of house and home, in a house that they can't afford. No, I'm not paying for that subscription model. I'm not doing that. That's crazy. That's crazy. That pisses me off. That's crazy.
What if you weren't close with your sister?
She lives with her sister. If I wasn't close with my sister, then yeah, sure. But again, I haven't lost you. So, like, I'm sure someone would. Don't make that face. I'm not losing you anytime soon. No, I haven't lost you. So, like...
You gotta test this.
No!
Goodbye!
No! But, like... Yeah, something about that is crazy. And I know people lose their mind with grief, you know what I mean? And, like, grief is a whole nother beast of, like, losing a loved one. So I'm not gonna... Everyone grieves differently. I'm not gonna judge her. But, like, that feels so unsatisfying. I know, I've been judging for... I know. It's just so unsatisfying. I thought she was hallucinating.
She still could be.
She still could be. This could be a take. I do think that the replicas, I do think that this book feels like the author or authors are putting their frustrations with the current state of the world into a book. So they talk about, I mentioned to the video, but they talk about, she thinks back to living with her parents, and there are a lot of like sentiments like that of like back when people weren't angry, back when things mattered, the fact that she couldn't find anything on a billionaire because money can buy the world, and you wouldn't believe how much someone could scrub off the internet when they have money. But isn't that just like the state of things, that people with money control the media that you ingest? You know, there's like a lot of sentiments like that, which is completely understandable. You know, an artist, you can only write what you know. And so with the fake paintings and the replicas, I wanted to say that, like, hey, this feels like you're making a take on AI about this being soulless and not feeling that there's ghosts here, that there's no history has been worn on these places of these walls that you're trying to recreate. Like, there is something there, but I thought it was too obvious, and I thought I was like too anti-AI recently, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, am I just primed to see it that way, or are they trying to say something different? Which is why I also, with the whole replica husband thing, I was like, yeah, no, I didn't think about it because I was trying not to think of AI, you know? But I feel like I should have seen this coming, personally. But yeah, Ivan storms in and is like, you can't be talking to anyone. What? How are you even doing that? There's no Wi-Fi. There's no phone signal. What are you doing? And it's like trying to get to her. She's scurrying away across the floor. How are you doing this?
Does that actually happen?
Huh?
Wait, does that actually happen?
Kind of, yeah.
And she's like, oh.
Well, she's like crying and like, no, it's not. I can explain. I promise. And he's like trying to get to her across the office. Much more dramatic, but.
And then she kills him.
And then she kills him. No, that's a different book.
And then she kills him. And eats him.
And okay, well.
Okay, so there have been so many twists and turns in this section of the book, and I'm still only 30% of the way in, so please disregard my last. So much has just happened. So it's not the sister's ex-husband's app. So did I go a little hard on Maggie for no reason? Yes. Also, my partner is sleeping, and that's why I'm whispering. I hope this isn't too bad. It is what it is. But, so Maggie, I'm sorry, girl, I didn't need to dig into you like that. It's not her sister's ex-husband's app. It is her sister's app. Her sister, the husband took all the patents for the AI being used by professionals, right? The sister is using her expertise to kind of start over, it sounds like, and she is using someone's social media presence, their digital footprint, if you will, video, photos, tweets, posts, using your voice for when it's when you use any sort of device that's activated by a name. They list them by name, but I won't do that to you. All of that information her sister is using to make an app to replicate someone's dead loved one. Not only does that sound like a Black Mirror episode, which sounds like an awful idea, in my opinion, but it's in beta, this app, and Maggie, I'm taking this down. I'm sorry, girl. Putting it here. No, I'm kidding. So Maggie is testing the app for her sister on her dead husband, which is crazy. Holy cow. And I also don't see how that would help with grief. The idea is that it talks you through grief. I don't know. That's crazy. Anyway, we just have to move on from that. Anyway, Maggie goes over. You can't see him, but Yvonne, the liaison for Oleg, he's not just a liaison, he's also the primary physician. Because of course he is. And he is also a military doctor. God. Whatever. There's so many military doctors on this board. But, Ivan, he goes over the health history of Oleg and Nadia with Maggie to get them prepped for surgery. And then they go to a ball. Oh, we also learned that Nadia, only has one kidney, that she donated the other one to her brother for some reason, which throws up a lot of flags in Maggie's head because she's like, well, if he's her full brother, what did he have? It's very uncommon for someone to need a kidney transplant by 25, so it must have been something serious, and if it's a full brother, then there's, shared genetics, and it can put her at risk for surgery, and she just won't drop it, right? Dog with a bone, that one. But Oleg just kind of brushes her off and is like, no. Also, Oleg took her phone, so she can't even talk to her imaginary husband anymore either. Also, I'm still stuck on the AI dead husband thing. The book feels like it flip-flops a lot. It doesn't know if it is pro-AI or anti-AI. Maggie often says that the statues and the paintings, the replicas, are lifeless. They're soulless because they're replicas, which is a very easy parallel to draw for AI making soulless art that's just a copy or an imitation of a copy of something else, right? But then we have our main character using the AI app, and they try to justify it that, like, she was so overcome with grief that she lost her soulmate, the love of her life, the one thing grounding her to Earth is gone. And again, grief is a hell of a thing. Grief is a hell of a thing. It makes you do crazy things. But like, she doesn't feel bad about the use of AI. She feels a little gross and weird about imitating Mark. We fucks with Mark. Like, she feels weird about it because she knows it's not him, but like, she doesn't want to replace him. You know what I mean? She feels weird with that moral quandary, but doesn't feel weird about the use of the replication itself. You know what I mean? The replacement she doesn't like, but the replication doesn't seem to bother her. And so it's really interesting. This book seems, I know I mentioned that this book didn't feel like it was written by two different people, or like you couldn't, or more, it felt like the dialogue and the prose were written by two different people, right? I still think that, but no, I do think that this was written by two different people. Very clearly, actually, and I don't know who's who. I kind of lose track. And my partner pointed out, because this happens another time when we're talking about the Mona Lisas and comparing it to religion, that we only know that there's one true religion. My partner went, you can just x-ray them. You can definitively prove which one's the real one, versus religion where you don't know which one's the real one. And I know the idea of Oleg being obsessed with this so deep thought is like the implication and the not knowing is what makes it interesting. But like, to immediately contradict it by saying, to immediately contradict the fact that he found out which one was real because of an x-ray, and then just being like, and no one can know, is like, it's just the immediate contradiction. It's just really interesting. And yeah, this book seems like it's at odds with itself, which is fine. The reason why I picked up the camera, oh my god, Maggie, Nadia, Oleg at night. It's a soft G. I know it's a soft G. I had a friend named Olya, and it was spelled with a G, and I know the G in Russian is like a soft G sound. It's a sound we don't have in English. I just have to be okay with calling him Oleg. Oleg, the night before surgery, is throwing a ball, not a party, a ball. And they even have, this is also interesting, this also felt like a weird tonal shift. Maggie goes up to her room and they do the Princess Diaries thing where they open the closet, and it's just like the perfect closet. It's a huge walk-in, and everything is in her size and in her style because they've been following her. And she is suspicious for only a second. And Ivan says that, yeah, we used AI to track all your social posts to see what you were wearing, what was your style, what did you wear to go out, right? And Maggie is like, she's a little suspicious. She's like, that's still wouldn't be enough information. You would have to have been following me for a long time. Even using AI, you couldn't have done it within 12 hours, right? So she's a little suspicious, but she puts on the beautiful navy blue gown, she does her hair, she does her makeup, she puts on Chanel No. 5, and Ivan comes to the door and he's like, wow, we gotta go. You know what I mean? It's almost like a rom-com moment, which is odd. But Maggie, she puts on the whole getup, she goes down to the ball, and she meets another doctor who I'll make a card for later, because I don't know if he's important yet, but she meets another doctor who knew Trace. He knew Trace, and she knew Mark. And he talks about Mark by name. And he was like, yeah, I dabble with cardiac surgery, because he was a cardiologist. And he was like, yeah, compared to what your husband does, like, I dabble. I'm an amateur compared to him. He was a renowned surgeon. Like, I'm so sorry for your loss. And he mentions to Maggie that the person who funded World Cures, the person who funded it, it was a foundation. The foundation was run by Oleg. And she's like, what are you talking about? No, it wasn't. Okay, whatever, I'll think about that later, because then Nadia comes up. Nadia comes up at the ball, and Nadia, remember, speaks English, right? Oleg still has not come down to the ball. Nadia speaks English, and she tells Maggie, walk, talk, eat, gesture wildly with your hands, remember, we do not speak the same language, and stop to talk to other people often, okay? And they go about the party. And Maggie, they talk and they eat a lot, and eventually Nadia tells her, okay, ask your question, what did you want to ask? Maggie presses her about the kidney. Hey, I need to know about the kidney. This could be serious. Even if you were cleared by your physician and liaison, even if you were cleared, I need to know what was the issue, just in case. Even though a boob job is minimal, smaller risk. There is still risk. And am I putting you more at risk if I do this? Nadia ends up breaking down, crying, and Maggie grabs her by the hand, walks her out, and Nadia confesses to her that, yes, she has a brother, but she did not give him a kidney. The reason why she only has one kidney is because her family was incredibly, incredibly poor. So poor that they didn't eat for days, if not weeks. And one day her mother woke her up and everyone in her village was tested. And she was the only one who came back positive. And so off they went. She went to bed. She woke up one kidney less. To which Maggie is like, what? What do you mean? And Nadia's like, no, you do not understand. Yes, I gave up one kidney, but I saved my entire family. We were able, in exchange for the kidney, my family was able to relocate. My mother lives in the Midwest. My brother lives in the Midwest. He's in law school. Like, we would have died if I didn't do this. I was not coerced. It was an honor to do it, right? Which Maggie is like, Nadia says, so don't judge me. You don't know. You Americans don't know what it's like to be poor, which is true. It's also not untrue. Yes, there are people in America that can go days without eating. It's not the same. We're not a war-torn country, not in the slightest. I say all that not to discredit her and her story, never. But because Maggie says, oh, I'm not judging, and then in her head of organ harvesting, and I understand that, like, this leads to such a dark place, and she's not the one doing the harvesting. What? She's like, I'm not judging, but she's secretly judging, kind of like me. Oh, I'm not judging her for using the app, but I totally was when I spent the past 5 minutes judging her. So, like, Maggie, Nadia is not the one committing the crimes. She was a victim of a crime. The same way she's a victim of war and poverty, and she's a victim to life circumstances. This is not the one you should be judging. What are you doing? It's a really interesting, like, they wanted her to have a tragic backstory. They wanted her to be vulnerable and for this to be upsetting and for you to sympathize with her in this moment. And then Maggie's like, yeah, but you still shouldn't have. It's like the type of person that says that violence is never the answer, and that you should just get up and walk away when you're getting your ass beat. Hey, sometimes you gotta punch someone in the face to get away, you know? That's what it felt like. So I thought that was really weird. And again, this at odds thing that's happening, okay? And I was like, oh, okay, Maggie, you lost a couple points in my book for judging the victim of a crime. But then also, speaking of crime, not seeing Pork Chop as being a victim of a crime. Sorry, I'm not over Pork Chop having Mark at 17. I'm not. Maggie and Nadia have this moment where they, like, get into this fight, right? Away from everyone else at the ball, they get into this fight. And Nadia is like, you do not know where I'm coming from. Keep your shit to yourself. You do not know me. Mind your business, okay? That's how it ends. And then Nadia tells her, hey, I'm gonna go say goodnight to Oleg. And Maggie's like, hey, can I come too? And Nadia goes, yeah, okay. And they go up together. I thought y'all bitches were fighting. What do you mean? So Nadia goes to bed. Maggie then spends a little time with Oleg, just checking in with surgery tomorrow, and talking to him. And she ends up asking him about, hey, were you the founder of this foundation? And he was like, no. What? She asked, like, how did you find me? And he's like, I didn't. Ivan did. She goes, well, do you know about World Cures? He goes, I know it was your foundation before your troubles. But that's really all I knew. And he was like, did you? And she was like, did you know about, like, the work I did? Why did you pick me? And he goes, oh, no, that's Ivan. I didn't. And she asked him about this foundation. It's like, were you the benefactor of this foundation? And he was like, no, I've never heard of that foundation. What are you talking about? Because he's watching from his bedroom, which has one-way mirrors down into the ballroom where the ball is happening, right? And so he mentions that, like, he saw her mingling with people and talking to people and talking to Nadia and stuff. And so he's like, did someone mention it downstairs? And she's like, yeah, but I don't remember who. But someone mentioned it downstairs. And he like, some like, rude American downstairs. And he was like, every American down there is from the CIA. So I don't know why they'd be telling you that, which is odd. And then he mentions again, I noticed you've been talking to Nadia, and I noticed that you're, like, getting close to Nadia, which is so odd. You don't speak the same language. Like, how do you communicate? Maggie fumbles the ball, and instead of saying, a lot of pointing, she just doesn't say anything. And Oleg goes, I know. Don't worry. I know. I've always known. And if there's one thing I know about Nadia, is every single story she tells is a lie. Everything about her is a lie. And that's where I had to put down the camera and I had to come talk to you. Or not my camera, I had to put down my Kindle and come talk to you. Because what do you mean? There are so many twists and turns in that. And you know how on Fable, there was a tag that said, what did I just read? Yeah, what the fuck did I just read? Because me, as Percy, as the reader, I'm more inclined to believe Nadia over Oleg. Because Oleg is just like that. You know what I mean? He's that kind of guy. Even if he does know that Nadia can fully consent to having this surgery, even though he knows that, she doesn't know that, you know what I mean? Whatever. He knows that, she doesn't know, but whatever. We'll call it a wash. Even if that wasn't an issue, he still is a billionaire. So yeah, I don't want to believe him. And also, I believe he's pro-AI. So I don't want to believe him. But does he take good care of his staff? No, it doesn't matter. And Nadia, even if everything she says is a lie, I'm more likely to believe a woman. I am, and that's my personal bias, and that is my God-given right on my channel that I upload to. No, I'm more inclined to believe Nadia. My question is, why doesn't Maggie believe Nadia? Maggie knows about organ harvesting and that, like, selling organs and the illegal black market. And especially if she's lived in war-torn countries and underserved communities, people do what they do to survive. It should, the word "but" should never cross your mind when someone tells you what they did to survive, because, yeah, no shit, you know? And the fact that she does, I'm like, wait, hold on, bitch, why? But this book is so bare bones, I don't know why she doesn't believe Nadia, you know? Or is that the author bias? Or am I trying to play 4D chess and I don't even know the rules to checkers, you know? It's a lot to chew on. We know Oleg goes missing. I don't have a idea of why he goes missing. I still think he runs away with his billions and wants to leave Maggie holding the bag, because very clearly they spent hours, hundreds of thousands of hours studying Maggie. You can say it's AI. Oh, it's not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you still took the work to do it. You wanted her here. You wanted her here. You made her lab. Maggie convinces herself that in the surgical suite that she uses to do the operations, that it could have been any suite that they then repainted and reorganized. Or maybe they wanted Dr. Barlow at first. Or that it's generic enough that it could have been anyone's operating room and they can repaint it and reorganize it for the next person, right? That's what she tells herself. But everything about how this operation is run tells me that they wanted Maggie specifically. Because she's an easy fall guy. She's already disgraced. She's already lost it all. What does it matter? It's easy to blame her, especially, hey, throw a little bit to her sister. She ain't got nothing to say. You know? Oh my god, I completely forgot. There's a whole chapter where, I'm so sorry, Maggie does the surgery. She does Oleg surgery. Perfect. Ivan, I think, has a little bit of a crush on Maggie. One, he thought she was beautiful, and two, he's a little in awe at her, like, surgery skills. He's like, no, you are the best at the best. That's so cool. And she doesn't even say anything. She goes, not the time. I know, and it's not the time for me to say thank you. I'm busy doing surgery. So the first surgery goes off without a hitch. The second surgery, she does it. There's a lot of information about, like, how breast augmentations are done when they do the breast augmentation, which I thought was kind of cool. Kind of interesting, but Nadia's surgery goes off without a hitch until the very, very end, where, because they have all the bells and whistles for the surgery, there is a metal pad, or like some sort of pad on, they gave a name, I forgot what it's called, a pad on Nadia's hip. It's on her hip or on her thigh to take away an electric current, right? You're not supposed to wear anything that can conduct electricity because it's not safe for the medical instruments, right? Because they have the bells and whistles, they have the expensive things to draw the electricity away for safety. And the breast augmentation goes off without a hitch until they take off that pad, and Maggie looks down, and on Nadia's thigh is the same Serpent and Saint logo that Mark had on his thigh. Not just the Serpent and Saint bike gang logo, it's not that. It's the logo, but with big googly eyes, like a cartoon, and it's the silly little tongue sticking out. Because Mark wasn't a part of Porkchop's gang. Mark was Porkchop's son, but gang. It's not really a gang. It's a crew of friends, if anything. It's family. Family, if anything. So he didn't have the logo. He had his version of the logo. He had a little silly, goofy guy. And Nadia has the same silly, goofy guy on the same thigh. And everything goes black, and it's mid-chapter break, and what do you mean? Unless she has like a skin graft, because we also learned Mark was chopped up to pieces, by the way. He was killed and then chopped up. Unless there was like a skin graft situation that happened, maybe, but if it's a skin graft, you don't take the tattoo. It doesn't have to go on, a skin graft doesn't have to go on the same spot. So unless they did it just to fuck with her. Which, again, I think that they're just setting her up to be the fall guy for something, but I don't know what. Fuck. I need to make a name card for the CIA, maybe not CIA, maybe cardiologist guy, but that's the only guy who's missing on the board. It's twisty, man. It's twisty. Okay, it's too late to film. The sun has officially gone down, and I don't want to do this angle the entire time. So... especially because you have to have the microphone in my face. So I will talk to you guys tomorrow.
It's upside down and I'm not fixing it. I'm not even turning my mic on for this. This is pissing me off. So, okay, this book is really starting to piss me off. Okay, so Maggie does the surgery. We saw the tattoo on the thigh and the blah, blah, blah. So she sees the tattoo, almost passes out, then goes to check on Oleg in the recovery unit. He's not there. And she goes, okay, whatever. They probably moved him to his room. I don't even know where my phone is. She thinks, oh, he's in his room. Okay, I'll go check on him later. Whatever. And she runs into Ivan, who escorts her to her room to, like, go wash up, go change, go come down from surgery, right? And she goes, no, I need to talk to Oleg, I need to talk to Nadia. When she wakes up, I need to check on my patients. Because she's freaking out about the tattoo and she wants to find out more about it, right? And he goes, don't worry about it, they're in good hands. He thinks that she just wants to check on them, like, as a surgeon. So she ends up showering, changing, blah, 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 blah. There's a guard at her door. So she breaks his ankle, takes off running, and gets to Nadia's room after a shower and change. Gets to Nadia's room and starts asking her about the tattoo. Nadia gets very, very cagey about it. Like if you've seen it and you recognize it, then you already know what it is and what it means. And Maggie's like, it was on a loved one of mine. I need you to tell me why you have one. Because you shouldn't have one. Only my loved one should have one, right? Nadia tells her, no, when I sold my kidney, I woke up and this was on my leg. Apparently it's branding for the surgeon who did my surgery. That is all I know about it, right? And Maggie is like, that's not possible. And she's going through the story that Mark had told her about how he got it. He was drunk in New Orleans. It was meant to be a joke, and it was a drunken mistake that the tattoo artist was even drunker than he was, and that's why the snake has big googly eyes, like a big cartoon, blah, blah, blah. Nadia is like, what do you mean your husband had it? Why did he have it? And Maggie doesn't tell her, and Nadia's like, what happened to your husband? Maggie's like, they killed him. What do you mean they as in people I don't know. He was in a war-torn country providing humanitarian relief, and someone came in and killed him, but we don't know who. How did he die? And Maggie's like, machetes or guns. I hope it was a bullet, but I don't know how he died. She knows that he was cut up after the fact. Then our conversation gets cut short because Ivan comes in and is like, hey, you gotta go. You gotta get in this helicopter and get out. Like, you're not staying for 2 weeks. You're done. We paid you, you're done. He gives her back her phone. He's like, we're leaving in 10 minutes. Go grab your shit, right? She's like, okay, let me just change and use the bathroom and then we'll go. And this is the part where it started to lose me. And this is why I'm not even plugging in my mic, because I'm like, this is silly. She gets her phone. It's like on 10% battery, and he's like, hey, just letting you know, out of precaution for your safety, we deleted your sister's app of AI Mark, right? You don't need it. It's a crutch, and out of safety, we deleted it. And Maggie's like, okay, fine, sure, whatever. Let me just change and we'll go. She goes, turns on the shower, and she's saying that any app her sister makes cannot be deleted off of her phone. That if you were going to delete one of her sister's apps off your phone, it needed her face, her sister's face, and the password. So, out of an abundance of precaution. What fucking precaution? Like, what do you mean? Like, that was the first thing. That was the first thing that got me. Because, like, an abundance of precaution for what? Why? How? Kind of. Like, and thirdly, if they're already in your phone with your password, I doubt that they're just, like, holding the screen and deleting the app. You know what I mean? Like, they're plugging it into something to see the files on your phone. I think it's a misunderstanding of how phones work and how files work. It's more than an app. It's a software. You can see the code in the file, and if they're plugging it in out of a precaution for safety and security, they're plugging it into a device to look at all of the files and what everything has access to. Did the app record anything? Is there anything saved elsewhere? Was it able to connect even though there's no Wi-Fi? Was it able to do something? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't. They would just delete the phone. They would just delete the phone. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's such a small nitpick, but the thing that got me, the reason why I pulled out my camera, because I need to, that alarm was because I need to leave. I need to leave the house. I have class. But the reason why I pulled out the camera is because AI Mark, Maggie starts talking to AI Mark and starts asking him about the tattoo. And he's just like, oh, haha, yeah, I got it in New Orleans. I was drunk. No, what about the tattoo? The guy was like drunker than me. No, what about the tattoo? I've told you, Maggie, I was drunk. Like, they go on that cycle for a little bit. And Maggie starts remembering that her sister told her that if real Mark would lie to her, AI Mark would lie to her. So if real Mark would not tell her, oh yeah, that's not your color, instead he'd be like, no, you look beautiful, AI Mark would also say, oh no, you look beautiful. Which, okay, fine, I'm there with you, that like speech patterns and how I told you I'm late, about how things are framed, sure. But then, this is the thing that gets me. Ivan, I don't know the last time you saw his card from all my framing, but Ivan comes to the door and is like, hey, Dr. McCabe, we have to go. We have 2 minutes till helicopter lands, come on. And AI Mark says, why are you with Ivan Brodsky? Why are you with Ivan Brodsky? And Maggie's like, I had to do surgery for a Russian oligarch. And AI Mark knows it's Oleg Grigorovich. And not just that, but AI Mark then tells her, hey, you need to leave. Like, you need to run. Because if you are with them and that's what you did the surgery for and now your services are done, where you are, there is a Russian, like, ore mine, and there's a big crevasse, and if you get in the helicopter, they're going to throw you out of the helicopter into the crevasse. So, run. Maggie, you need to run. Do not get on the helicopter. And my issue with that is, you made a point to tell me, I wanted to come into this to have such a good time. I hate how my last few videos have just been me, like, ragging on shit. I don't want to do that. And there are things about this that I like, but you made a point to tell me that the AI is made based off of someone's social media posts and publicly available information, surveillance information, and even surveillance information of, like, phone calls that were to private companies of, like, hey, this phone call is going to be recorded for customer service. Even that. Okay, sure, you could hack into that. That's super not legal because those are private companies, but sure, I'm here with you. I'm on the journey. That seems like a fun way to introduce this AI, right? Publicly available information. Something that Oleg and Ivan famously don't have. And the fact that AI Mark knows Ivan based off his voice in general and can recognize it and knows it's him and knows she's in danger. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. And if you, I think I'd have been more ready to believe this if you had just been like, yeah, she found a way to upload someone's consciousness. Okay, yeah, sure, whatever. I'm here. Let's go. But no, you made a point to be like, it's based off publicly available information and it scrubs their digital footprint to hell and back and everything that the government has on them. Like, sure, maybe in some sort of government database, there is a connection between Mark and Ivan and Oleg, and sure, in a government database, there might be Ivan Brovsky voice recording, you know what I mean? But Sharon is supposed to be smart, and she's not using that for a private app. You know what I mean? She's not violating government security and putting herself on a watch list for a grief app. She's just going to use what's publicly available, and she's going to be good about it, you know what I mean? And anywhere where you could pay for someone's private information, sure, but that's government level secret stuff. Huh? And I think I'd be more okay with this if you didn't make a point to be like, no, it's publicly available information. Stuff that other people would not think about. Stuff that is publicly available, easy accessible, that we don't realize the trail we leave behind. That's not that. And how would AI, I feel like AI Mark should have a card. You're going here. Or you're going there. AI Mark, sorry Chase. AI Mark. Yeah, he wouldn't know this. He wouldn't know this at all. Dumb. It's just dumb. And like, I wouldn't have minded if like, and also I think a really good workaround is that Sharon was working on this before Mark died. Maggie and Mark offered to help and like uploaded themselves, their voices, their names, and like talked to it privately. And now in her grief, now Maggie is turning to that AI version of him. That would have made so much more sense, because then AI Mark would realistically know secrets and we would believe that he's not making shit up. But like, in order to believe this, you have to believe that AI can never make a mistake and can never hallucinate anything at all. And that's just not true. Even in 2022, 2023, like AI was notoriously bad at being truthful. And so I'm reading this and it's meant to be this big deal of like, Maggie, run. And I'm there like, Maggie, are you believing this? Really? You're believing this dumb bitch? Why?
Oh.
No, ma'am.
If you're gonna have it send out a message with bullshit technology stuff, why not just have it get the intel on what Maggie, is her name Maggie?
Her name's Maggie, yeah.
Maggie, what she, like the iron mine and what happened with Mark and everything, just have it hack the fucking Russian guy's house.
Yeah.
And get the intel that way. If this AI is already magic because it can run off a phone and
Yeah.
do all that, just have it magic, take all the information it needs and extrapolate what it needs. And then that way it makes more sense than just, I have a dead guy's memory.
My dead husband's memory is telling me, but
Yeah.
it's also not his memory, and also
Super not his memory.
it stops what is it? It stopped scraping information from him 3 months ago because he went off the grid 3 months ago.
So
No, he died 3 months ago.
So yeah, it would only make sense if you just have it say, oh, I
found
gathered
this.
everything. I gathered everything in this house. I
Yeah.
gathered recordings. I gathered this, so I know what happened here,
Yeah.
and I know what happened because of recordings and.
Not I
all
have your
this.
dead husband's secret memories that he never told you and never told anyone and wouldn't be online and would not be publicly available to be scraped.
And he could portray it as a memory because
Yeah.
it's, I don't know, it's a fucking magic apple shit. But like, that's the only way it could logically have that information. And you've already magicked this AI that would take hundreds of gigabytes of RAM to do anything,
Mhm.
VRAM, and having it work on a phone. Just fuck it, throw it out the window. That would be all the way magic. I shouldn't curse now. But you're already in fantasy land of how this AI works.
Yeah, which is fine.
Just
I'll
go
go there
for
with you.
fantasy.
I'll go there with you. Like I am all for suspension of disbelief. I have the
But-
biggest sense of suspension of
But
disbelief.
I don't know. It's
So you
like
can't contradict yourself in the same
that's what I
in
mean.
the
If
same
you're gonna have a
universe.
suspended disbelief, you have to back up that consistency in the world.
consistent. It needs to be consistent.
Like this bot somehow has more processing power and more power than any AI bot available right now.
And more memory.
And what?
It's meant to remember everything.
And memory, whatever, all that, cool, okay. Then you have to have it get all the information through algorithms, through hacking, through blah blah blah,
Mhm.
not through bullshit.
At that point, like make a little holographic AI assistant that pops out being like, I solved the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like.
And not try to confine it to it's just this specific thing, but it can do all of these things that don't make sense. You're breaking your own laws.
I was watching. I remember seeing a little thing about that of like in fantasy, the worst fantasies are when you just go because magic. That's why it happened. It's like
Oh,
no,
absolutely.
fantasy has rules.
Yes.
Same thing with speculative fiction.
Mm-hmm.
There are rules. Stick to the rules, otherwise the audience it's not fun anymore.
Yes.
You're allowed to have random bullshit be there. You're allowed to have magic in this
Yeah.
world. But then you have to be consistent with the rules of how it works within the world you've created.
You have to make your own rules and you have to be consistent with them. And like, that's what matters. People will go with you anywhere on a journey you want to take them if you give them the confidence that you know what you're talking about and you know what you're doing. And part of that is making rules, is making constraints, is making something with walls to exist in. Mm-hmm. I can't live in this world if I don't know where the world starts and ends.
So if anything can happen at any point,
yeah, like what's the point?
For her to be written as such a world-renowned surgeon, incredibly intelligent, a veteran, a Purple Heart receiver, a Silver Star receiver, all these different accolades, and then to I just don't get it, and I think having them voluntarily help Sharon makes so much more sense than whatever's happening here. Also, I gave him little devil horns. I wanted to have a good time with this, and I'm not having a good time. I just think it's dumb and not in a fun way, because things can be dumb and fun. Things can be over the top and silly, and you suspend your disbelief, and it's fun, but this is dumb. But this is just plain dumb. I think it's because it's trying too hard to be serious, and it's like, that's not how... It just feels unrealistic in the world that you've already established, and I don't know how you even did that. I don't. Oh, another thing, Nadia remembers the name Trace. And Maggie's like, is that the man who performed your surgery? She goes, no. No, there was, he was an assisting surgeon. I heard someone call him Trace. He's the one who tried to stop it. So, they're trying to set up as Mark as, like, a bad person and a bad guy, and I think, I don't know. I'm gonna go to class, and then I'll keep reading, and hopefully my desk is clear by the next time we have a check-in.
Okay, this is as good as an angle we're getting. It is still the same day, but it is late at night, which is why the big light is on, or else you would not be able to see me at all. So much has happened. I just finished chapter 17, and so much has happened. So, where were we? We left off with AI Mark, right? We left off with AI Mark giving our girl Maggie a phone number that belongs to Charles Lockwood. Forgive me, going back. Maggie does run. AI Mark tells her to run. Maggie runs, right? He gives her a phone number and she's spamming trying to get it to go, and she ends up running away from Ivan and the rest of the security guards, and she has to scale down the side of a mansion in the Russian winter, nothing but like a jacket, right? And if there was any point for her to feel like a former I almost said former troop. If there was any moment for her to feel like a veteran, this would have been it. And she talks about like her military training kicked in and da-da-da-da. But it feels like she's kind of fumbling around, right? She's like slipping and sliding and people are shooting at her and she's running. But like, I don't know. I feel like we could have done more with that. I don't understand why she's a veteran. I don't understand why she's a veteran personally, but she takes off running and is able to get into Oleg's huge stash of like multi-million-dollar cars, right? And so they like hesitate to shoot her because they're like, ah, shit, that's really expensive. But she's able to take a car, steal it, and drive away. And all the while, spamming her phone to get the call to go through. She doesn't know if you hear clicking, ignore it. It's okay. Spamming the call to see who goes through. It goes through, and she says she needs help. But then the car crashes and she goes flying. Luckily, the windshield was already shot out. She just feels herself launch out and she loses her phone and she's gone and everything goes black. Cut to Sharon. Sister Sharon, she gets an alert that someone tried to delete the app off of Maggie's phone. Which I will say, I know I love to come on here and maybe I should be like reading just a little bit more whenever I feel the urge to turn on the camera, because I said it was dumb that like she would, like, why does she have the 2-factor authentication to delete the app? Sharon is paranoid, as she should be, since they are both veterans, but she's much more paranoid. And not just that, she never wants to give away a product and not have herself be useful. So anytime a client buys a product from her, there are fail-safes that only she can access, and if things need to be changed and updated, there's stuff that only she can do because she never really wants to be out of a job. We call that planning ahead, okay? But because she's paranoid of someone going through her family's things and going through her code specifically, it sets off an alarm. And Sharon is like, ugh, that's not normal, because Maggie wouldn't try to do that. So someone else is trying to delete the app, right? And then she uses LOE, low orbit something, low orbit satellites, and that's how she's like tracking Maggie's phone. And she realizes, why is my sister in Russia? That's weird. So now now Sharon and Porkchop are on the case, as they should be. And Porkchop, God bless this man, okay? Porkchop goes to Dr. Barlow and threatens his life. And he sits him down in Barlow's own office and says, if my Maggie is not safe, you know I've lost my son. And if I lose her because of you, I'll kill you with my bare hands. And I mean that. And I got a little chill. I was like, he does mean that. He means that very much.
Is that character's name is Porkchop?
A character's name is Porkchop, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the grieving father-in-law. This is a man with nothing left to lose. He's threatening to kill a man. As he should, honestly. I love Porkchop. Where was I? Porkchop, Sharon are tracking Maggie using illegal satellites, or using satellites illegally. They try to explain it. They try to explain it in the book, but honestly, I just kind of glazed over it because what am I going to do with that information? But cut back to Maggie. She wakes up in a hospital room with Charles Lockwood. He was the phone number that AI Mark gave her. Why does AI Mark have that information? I don't know. Again, that does not make sense. The fact that AI Mark would have his information and no secrets the alive Mark would know. I don't know. But luckily Maggie was not too hurt in her crash, and they've been able to take care of her for the most part. They say that she was out for 2 days, and when she went through the car window, she went into a ravine, which is why Oleg's men kind of gave up on her. They assumed that she would die out there, because she had nothing but a jacket, which normally she would have, but it gave our boy time for them to come save her. And this is where things start to get kind of crazy. So, Porkchop, the investigator that he is, finds out through Barlow that it was not Oleg who wanted Dr. Maggie. No, the one who wanted Dr. Maggie is Nadia. The one who apparently lies about everything. That is the only thing we know about her, and Maggie has not latched on to that in the slightest at all. And I don't know why. But Nadia was the one who specifically requested Maggie. Now, I personally think Nadia is in charge of the foundation, right? The foundation that we learned is laundering money, or was laundering money, through World Cures. Since World Cures is not around anymore, well, their washing machine is gone. It is implied that Mark found out about it, and that Trace might have found out about it, and that they were, like, on the case, and that's why they were killed. There are 3 leading theories as to Mark's death, okay? 1 is that it was just a random attack and he died, okay? 2 was that Oleg wanted him dead and he died. 3rd is that he faked his own death by chopping up a random civilian and pretending he died to save Maggie, Sharon, and Porkchop from Oleg and his powerful men and trying to kill him, right? Because he found out too much. Now, that is the theory that Charles did not want to tell Maggie in the slightest, and she kind of pushed it out of him because he folded like a lawn chair, and now she's hung up on the fact that maybe Mark might be alive. Charles told her that Trace is officially missing. No one can find him, and that's part of the reason why I think Mark faked his own death. And Charles thinks that Trace is trying to find Mark. And that's why one's dead, one's missing. That's where we are. Now, you know how I mentioned that this book wants to go for a vibe? Yeah, we're in Dubai. I'm not doing another location card. We're in Dubai. And Maggie, with the help of Charles, is now in Dubai to do 2 surgeries for 2 children. One is like pinning the ears back. The other is like a cleft palate surgery, which is like her bread and butter. She's there to do those surgeries, but more she's there to do CIA spy work with Charles? She's just a surgeon. And, like, yeah, she's a good surgeon, and I guess she's a vet, but she's, like, not a good one. And why does the CIA want to find Mark? Why do they care about Mark? He's just a guy. I know why Maggie wants to find Mark. I don't know why Lockwood wants to find him. He's just a guy. Anyway, she's in Dubai under false pretenses, living it up in this rich, lavish lifestyle. Again, this vibe of, like, the best writing has been the description of Dubai. I will be completely honest. The best writing has actually been about the Dubai city skyline, like the twinkling lights, the diamonds on velvet, the skyscrapers made of glass, so elegant you feel like you could throw a stone and knock them over. Like, very, very invoking. And the rest of the book has not been written like this at all. So again, vibe more than anything. But she's in Dubai playing spy, pretending to do, I think she's going to actually do the surgeries. I'm assuming she's actually going to do the surgeries. But pretending to be just another concierge surgeon. But she's really there to find Nadia, because this is the last place Nadia was seen. And she finds Nadia in, like, an elite of the elite clubs, and pretends, I kid you not, pretends to make out with her, and pretends to, like, run her hands up her dress and push her into a private booth. It made me uncomfortable. And also, I can't help but think, Nadia, you're fresh out of surgery. It's been a week at most. Like, you wouldn't be it's a breast augmentation. You can't sit up. Like, no amount of money is going to make you heal faster from surgery. It's just going to cause more complications if you're out partying. I don't understand why Nadia, I don't understand her. I don't understand. I just don't understand. But I'm not a multimillionaire, so what do I know? But in this, like, makeout session, right, she pushes her up into this booth, closes the curtains, and lifts up her dress. And now there's no tattoo. And now there's no tattoo. So what the fuck is going on? Not just that, but Maggie, early in the book, when Maggie went to go visit Trace's apartment, there was a photo of her and Trace on a helicopter helping someone. I think I read a quote from around that passage. It talks about, like, being altruistic is really just this ego thing, and no one does good things for good reasons. They do it just to make themselves feel better. And it's, like, very, like, depressing. But in that section, she talks about the photographer, right? That photographer comes back now. That photographer, Ray something, I didn't write down his name, was there the day before Mark died and took photos of the refugee camp the day before Mark died. Out of respect for Maggie, he sent her the link and said, when you are ready, here's the password, but take your time. And finally she decides that she's ready. And she goes onto the website and starts flipping through the photos the day before Mark died. Also, keep in mind, this was kind of low-key fucked up. The password to get into the website was the name of the refugee camp where Mark supposedly, allegedly, was murdered and then hacked to pieces. I don't know about you. I would pick a different password. I wouldn't pick the murder site of the loved one, of the person I'm trying to give comfort to by here are his last moments. Here are all of my raw files, completely unedited, so you can have all of them. 17 pages of hundreds of thousands of photos. Have all of them. Why would you make it the name of the place? That's crazy. And it's not like a city. It's like a temporary refugee camp. And it's not like a sentimental name. Whatever. I could go on about this. That freaked me out. I would be pissed. I'd be pissed, personally. I wouldn't want to think about that. But in flipping through those photos, in making out with Nadia, Maggie makes a very important realization. And it's the entire reason I pulled up the camera, because she says this reveal, and I'll tell you in a second, but she says this reveal, and I felt so stupid. Because, of course, it's obvious that this is, like, the twist that happened at this point in the book. Nadia is not her real name, which, again, I'm not surprised by, but I am surprised that her real name is Salima. You don't know who that is. Salima is someone from the prologue of the book that I did not mention because I did not think that she was important. I feel dumb. Actually, no. I'm not dumb. This book is dumb. If we go all the way back to the prologue of the book, Salima was the translator / point of contact for Mark and Trace when they first came to this refugee camp. She's the one who spoke the language. She's the one that arranged transportation. She's the one that brought them to that camp. And not just that, but she and Trace apparently were a thing. This is implied at the beginning of the book because I don't know if you can see it here, but it says playa. Exactly how it's spelled in the book. Playah. Playa. According to Mark. And he's a bit of a slut. And he was trying to hook up with Salima. And it was important enough for them to point it out. And I should have mentioned that it was important enough for them to point it out. Because, yeah, she's back. She's back. And Maggie is not at all questioning that. Maggie is not at all paranoid about Nadia. She's not worried enough for me. And that's where we are. And it made me want to rip my hair out until I pulled out the camera. And here we are. So, I really don't know what's going to happen next. I haven't been able to predict anything because I thought I knew what we were going to be predicting. And I don't. Do I think Mark is dead? No. I do think he faked his own death, but I do want him to be dead. I do want him to be dead. I think it's better if he is, like, fully dead. It's better still if Maggie kills him. Or have killed him. Where is Oleg? I think Salima killed Oleg for his money. And maybe he's in the bottom of the ravine or thing that AI Mark told Maggie that they were going to throw her out of. Maybe he's there. Because of Salima. Why? I don't fully know. Maybe she was in love with Mark. I'm not off the whole Dr. Barlow being in love with Maggie's dead mom and that not being a callback later. I'm still not over that. Someone's going to be secretly in love with someone that they can't be in love with. And my money is on Salima. That she was dating Trace, but was in love with Mark, helped him fake his own death, went to Oleg, being all hot and sexy, integrated her into his life, and then killed him for Mark. That's my prediction. Yeah, I'm locking that in. I don't know how I'm going to note that on the board, but I'm locking that in. On that note, I'm going to start chapter 17, and I will check in with you tomorrow to see how this unfolds. Hopefully I don't finish the book tonight. Hopefully I still have more to read tomorrow. That way I don't have to recap the entire last third of the book in the morning, just like off rip, you know? But I'm gonna do a little bit more reading, and we'll see where this goes. I will say, I don't think this book is very well written. I think it's pretty basic, but the reveals and the twists keep me coming back. And I don't want to let great be the enemy of good here. And so I have a lot of thoughts that I will save for the very end, but I don't fully know what they are yet, which is why I'm saving them. Just know there are times where I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to finish this book. And then a twist happens and I'm like, oh, I'm right back in. I need to know what happens. So I don't know if I'll finish the book. I don't know if I'll come to a twist. So I don't know if I'll finish the book tonight. If there's a good enough twist, I just might. We'll see. Okay, see you in the morning. So I thought I was right for about 0.2 seconds. And then I wasn't. But for those 0.2 seconds, I felt real good. It's the next morning. I spilled moisturizer on my shirt. We are going to pray it doesn't stain. And we're going to pretend it didn't happen, okay? Now, let me consult my notes. So much has happened since we last checked in last night. And I don't think it's for the better. I think it's gotten more convoluted, I'll be completely honest. So Maggie is confronting Nadia in the club and finds out that Nadia / Salima, which I forgot to put her little sus icon up there last night, so I put it up this morning, but Salima and Trace were engaged. I don't fully believe it. I'm still kind of hoping for this last minute twist of Selima actually being in love with Mark. There was a hint, Maggie thought for a moment, that they had like an affair, and that's when I thought I was right. Kind of implied, and then she was like, oh, no, not that. And I'm like, but everything supposedly that you say is a lie. So, could be that, just saying. But, Selima has Trace's mother's, like, $20,000 emerald ring. Which, I don't fully understand why Trace would bring it into a war-torn country, personally. According to Nadia / Selima, she prefers Nadia, so we will respect a choice. Nadia tells Maggie that her and Trace met here in Dubai, and that he recognized her, that World Cures had helped Nadia. She did actually sell her kidney, and it only was able to afford for her mother and her brother to go, like that's true, to go to the US and live better lives, live in the Midwest. But she had to stay, and she ended up being in Dubai. She worked in the clubs, and she found rich men to take care of her, and she just kind of survived. And she ended up meeting Trace, and they recognized each other, or, well, she recognized him, and they ended up getting coffee, and ended up falling in love, supposedly, okay? And then for the last World Cures mission, she went with them on that mission. She led them into that area and worked as a translator and worked as the go-between, right? I guess she could have left the $20,000 ring in Dubai, but, like, at the cusp, either on their way there or while they were there. Like, they got engaged, like, during or right after the mission. Where's the $20,000 ring? It's not important, but I'm harping on it because it feels, the ring doesn't stand out in Dubai, but it does stand out anywhere else where they could have been. You know what I mean? I'm harping on this for way too long. The point is, they're engaged. Sorry, no, not that. They're engaged. And so Nadia is able to fill in Maggie of the information that she's missing. And basically what happened was World Cures was not happy, but they would look the other way for the money laundering, right? Because they were able to do and put good out into the world. And I think that's a really interesting idea. They say it's because of, like, a surgeon's god complex, which I guess could be true, but I think a more interesting choice. Again, I'll save it for the end. But anyway, that they're fine with money laundering. But then Nadia says the next logical step after money laundering is organ harvesting and selling. And I'm like, I don't think that's true, bestie. I think that there are many other crimes that could happen from money laundering that isn't organ harvesting. I'm just putting it out there. Okay? Oh my God. But whatever. But that's like the big catalyst that happens with World Cures, is organ harvesting and selling starts happening. And the theory goes, Mark sold out Oleg. And Oleg was not happy about that, about, like, being tattled on for harvesting organs. Which, I mean, I wouldn't be either. Nadia's theory is that Maggie is actually the one that sold out Mark, and that she's the reason why he's dead. And this was another moment where I was like, oh, I was right, so she did kind of kill him in a way. Unsure about that right now. We'll get there. And Nadia is still kind of holding on to that theory. They agree to work together, Nadia and Maggie. They agree to work together. But she still thinks, she doesn't trust Maggie. She still thinks, I think that you had something to do with it because of the timing of everything. You decide to leave World Cures, and then Mark dies, and then you get addicted to pills and almost kill someone from the guilt, right? But something interesting happened in the fall of World Cures, because Maggie leaves before it falls apart, right? Trace, after Mark dies, 6 months ago in the story, Trace apparently told Nadia that he's going to go visit Maggie. He gets a call 5-6 months ago. I have to go pay my respects about Mark dying, and I want to go visit her. She's not doing well. I'm gonna go. So she takes him to the airport and sends him off with a kiss. And that's the last time that she ever saw him. And Nadia, her whole mission in this book is she just wants her fiance back. She's lost everything. She wants her fiance back and she cannot find him. And she's like, I love him. And we got engaged. We had plans. And now he's just gone. Which, like, I get. And now we have this really interesting thing of, like, Maggie, lost in grief, would do anything, including converse with a grief bot to feel like she has a bit of Mark back. Nadia being consumed by grief and the not knowing and doing everything to get her fiance back. There's something interesting there. So they agree to work together, but they don't trust each other. The first smart thing Maggie has said in a long time. She told Nadia in this conversation, she goes, I would have figured it out anyway. And I'm like, Maggie, you haven't figured out shit. Everyone has told you things. You haven't figured out shit, so I haven't figured out shit. Or else, Maggie, you would have told me, okay? We're in this together. I don't know why I have the mic. I'm like, around the mic. I don't need to have it that high. I'm so used to, like, holding it here. It doesn't need to be there. And then after, okay, so that's where we left off. After this conversation, Maggie goes back to the dance floor. She's trying to leave. Her bodyguard, Bob, is downstairs waiting for her, and so she wants to get out. She only came to this nightclub to talk to Nadia. But she can't get out because the party has started. Thousands of people are there. It seems like she's being pushed and pulled. And again, it's a masquerade party. And so she doesn't know who anyone is. It's just a blur of masks and lights and music. And she's like, these people are high. And they're high or they're drunk or they're on something I can't get through. She's throwing punches. You know what I mean? And then out of the sea of people, someone grabs her and refuses to let go. And he drags her in the opposite direction away from the door. And who is it? Oleg Grigorovich is back in play. He finds her on the dance floor and says it's all a lie. Everything she knows is a lie. And she can see fear in his eyes. And she wants to ask him, what do you mean it's all a lie? When out of nowhere, he is grabbed and he is stabbed. And she starts screaming, but because everyone is on something and the music turns back up, she cannot get to him. And he just gets dragged away by who she calls Cinderblock. It's one of his bodyguards. We don't know his name. We learn his name is like Alemi later, but she calls him Cinderblock because he had a big Cinderblock head. She sees his face. He picks up Oleg and takes him away. So one of his own bodyguards. Crazy. And she's trying to get to him. And again, throwing punches, climbing on top of people, trying to get out, and no one notices. Until eventually she is pushed underneath the sea of people and she gets knocked out, basically. And I think this section in particular is really, really good example of what I mean about this book being like a lot of vibes strung together. The dance scene, the going around Dubai, everything being luxurious, like that stuff it's written fairly well. It's you get a very clear image. It's almost written like it's meant to be a movie. Same with the dialogue. The dialogue's kind of written as if it's meant to be a movie because it leaves a lot to be desired and it's almost missing the physical component of the body language. Now back to the goat. Pork Chop and Sharon are hacking it up at Vipers, and I don't like Sharon. She's meant to be kind of autistic. Something about this book is very, very negative about things, like it, which I get. Things are negative right now. Like where we are in the world is there's a lot of negativity that's going around. But like she's very autistic and she's written to be very autistic, and she herself admits that she's probably autistic, but that she hates that everything has a label. You can't even shake your leg without a label being put to it and being diagnosed with something. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Shut up. Like, it bothered me so much because it didn't need to be in there. Yeah, I don't know. Something about it is weird. It went on for like a little too long. Normally, I would chalk this up to characterization, and I wouldn't see this as a negative thing. Characters can have negative attributes and should be flawed. But this type of negativity exists within the narrative as a whole. Every POV, this is a consistent trait and complaining about the world these days, which makes the book feel more like a diary entry than a narrative. And with Sharon, it felt like it came out of nowhere, and so it really bothered me. But I want to make that clear. Normally, I love when people are negative in books. I love when characters have like these weird, quirky little things. I love when characters are bad people, personally. But here, because it's a trend throughout the narrative, I just needed to point it out why it bothered me. But Anyway, Sharon is talking to Porkchop about the grief bot and how apparently they make it sound like grief bots are common and that this is like a common practice. Like, yeah, you know what a grief bot is? Of course I know what a grief bot is. What? Which is so odd because grief bot so far has been presented as this novel, ingenious thing, multi-million-dollar thing. And like the idea of an AI bot being able to take on the characteristics of someone. That's why her husband left her for millions and millions of dollars. You know what I mean? That's why he like was fine betraying his family, was because this was going to make him a millionaire. And now it's just like, yeah, well, grief bots are a dime a dozen. What do you mean? I don't know. It's really weird. But anyway, Sharon is talking about a grief bot, and you know what a grief bot is? Of course I do. Have you ever used one? No. I never wanted to make an imitation of my son, the goat. And they talk about like coping mechanisms, and like he kind of calls her out for what it is like this is a kind of a cruel thing to do. And now they're kind of learning that Maggie, because Maggie called Porkchop. Did I mention that? I hope so. Maggie got help from one of the girls in Dubai who was a worker at a high-end bar, and she was able to get a phone to Maggie. Actually, one of my favorite scenes, because Maggie is kind of judgy about her and is like, oh, we should call it what it is. Like, she's just a girl caked with makeup with eyelashes that look like caterpillars and a dress that's far too short. And then Maggie ends up asking this young woman for a phone. Like, do you have a phone? And she immediately snaps into focus. Are you okay? Do you need help? Why do you need a phone? You're an American. Where's your phone? What is going on? Are you okay? What do you need? And she snaps into a full-grown adult woman, like right before her, like someone who's way too wise beyond her years. And it's a wonderfully written scene, actually, of Maggie being kind of judgy and then realizing she's being judgy, and then she sees her transform into someone who has so much more life experience and who is ready, no questions asked, to help. I don't need to know what you're going through. That's not my business. You need help. I got you. I don't know. I really like that. She's my favorite character so far, and we don't even have her name, which sucks. But this young woman was able to get Maggie a phone. She was able to call Porkchop, and she relays a bunch of information. Mark might be alive. Here's what's going on. I'm in Dubai. Everything that we know so far, right? So now, flashback to Porkchop. Porkchop and Sharon are talking, and Porkchop is telling her, like, Maggie thinks Mark might be alive. I don't know why. Now they're giving her hope. And then you, with this grief bot that was supposed to mimic him so diligently and so closely, like, is it not cruel to not let her move on? To hold on to this idea of him that's not really him, it's just an imitation of him. And Porkchop, he's spitting facts, okay? And then Sharon tries to compare it to the fact that Porkchop has his son's bike in memoriam in the bar. And I'm like, that's not the same fucking thing. Shut up, Sharon. Sharon, shut up. That's not the same thing to keep something that someone used in their everyday life and they touched and they loved, and to keep it in memoriam for them in a sacred space that you see every day is not the same thing as using a cheap imitation of their likeness on your phone that you code, that was made by scanning their images and their likeness from the internet, something that they didn't touch to begin with. Something that they didn't put themselves into, something that they didn't touch to begin with. Sharon, shut the fuck up. Ah! The rest of the chapter isn't super important. We learned that Porkchop apparently at one point lied to Maggie. He's not a liar. He's never lied except for the time he lied to Maggie. End chapter. Now, we are back to Maggie back in Dubai. She meets up with Bob, and Bob is like, hey, you called the police. You're here illegally doing illegal things because you don't have a license, you don't have permits. This was meant to be discreet, and you decided to go out to a bar, have a drink, even though I advised against it, go out to a super exclusive late night club, even though I advised against it. And now you call the police, now you're on the radar, and now it's 4 a.m. I'm advising the family to not go through with the surgery. We're not doing it. Fuck you. You know what I mean? And good for him. Bob stands on business. Because, yeah, she called the police and they started asking a lot of questions that she didn't have answers to. Because no one else no one else reacted or saw the stabbing, and no one could corroborate her. And she's like, no, it happened on the dance floor, and no one believes her. So this is probably the only time in the book where I've, like, gotten stressed, was when the police are here, and it's like, oh, yeah, you can't prove anything, and now I'm in trouble for this, like, multi-million-dollar job that I'm supposed to do, even though I know I'm not here to do that job. I'm here working with the CIA, being a spy still, for some reason, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, it stressed me out, personally. But being a spy, she does. Her, Nadia, agreed to work together, and they go to Apollo Longevity. I'm so glad that I made the tag for it originally. They go to Apollo Longevity and they meet up with Sleazy Steve. Maggie says that they're there because she wants Steve, the boob whisperer, as he calls himself, and no one else calls him. She wants him to make sure that Nadia is recovering correctly, that the job was done well, just for, like, a post-op checkup, right? Now, Sleazy Steve is a little suspicious and is like, why? Like, this is excellent work. Why are you coming to me, first off? And second, this is too new. You didn't get your license back. What are you doing? This is an illegal surgery, right? Like, he's starting to put two and two together. And Maggie sweet talks her way out of it, and World Cures had offices at Apollo Longevity in Dubai, which they used for research. Remember the Thumper, the Thumper 7 THMPR7, the completely artificial heart that Trace had in his apartment. We'll get to that in a second, but that was developed here. That's where a lot of that research happened, and she wanted to go see those offices, to which he obliges as long as they keep talking. He takes her down to go look. And we learn that part of the reason why World Cures closed, Maggie had already kind of stepped back. Her mother had gotten sick, and so she had gone home and had left Mark and Trace behind running World Cures. And part of the reason why it closed after Mark's death was because there was, like, a heist or something that happened. We don't fully know what. It's implied that Trace stole the Thumper 7, that he stole it, and he stole a lot more propriety tech and propriety information. And Sleazy Steve is kind of nervous to be down there because he's like, yeah, they thought that I helped him last time. I just started working here, and they knew that I went to school with you and that you and him were close, and so I almost got in trouble last time this happened. Because while they're down there, Steve gets an alert on his phone that the computer that he was on in the exam room with Nadia just got hacked into. Nadia knew all of Trace's login information, which I don't fully know why, and Maggie does not question it. But she knows all of his, like, work login information, and goes in, tries to hack it, but because Trace did this, like, heist situation, of course it's red flagged. And now the police are there and private security is there, and they have to not pretend, but they have to escape. And part of that escape is tying up Sleazy Steve. Now, what I find interesting is that the two security guards come down, right? One comes down, and then one has to go meet the police. The one that stays, Maggie is able to incapacitate him by throat chopping him, essentially. She hits him, like, here. And Nadia is able to go to his belt, unlatch it, and take the gun out, which is not a very complicated move by any means. But she pulls it off flawlessly and is able to then arm the gun and hold him at gunpoint. And Maggie doesn't think twice about this. And I'm like, why are you so comfortable doing that? Because it's not a hard thing to do, but anxiety and nerves, I think any average person would kind of fumble a little bit. You know what I mean? I think most people could do it, but I do think that it'd be a little bit more awkward than what Nadia did. So I'm just like, Nadia, what is your deal? But they have to tie up Sleazy Steve. But they have to tie up Sleazy Steve, and they have to tie up the security guard, and they take him at gunpoint up the elevator, and they make their escape. They walk and they leave, and Nadia makes a few phone calls and is able to get Maggie on a plane within the hour, which I don't know how fast you can travel across Dubai. I don't think that they're near the airport, but she gets her on a plane within an hour with a fake passport, which Maggie already had because of Lockwood. Lockwood had given her a fake passport just in case, and so they were able to escape as Emily. Now, what's interesting, Maggie still has the fake cell phone that Lockwood gave to her as part of the spy mission. It's on very low percent, and she's like, it's not an iPhone, it's not an Android, it's a phone I've never seen before, I don't know what cord it takes, and I have like 30% battery left. Okay, I gotta make the most of it. She calls Pork Chop and is like, hey, I'm going to Heathrow, okay? And he goes, okay, I got you, see you soon, hangs up. She knows that Chris is listening in, so they keep it real brief and real short. And I assumed that Pork Chop just had connections in Heathrow, like a friendly biker gang, you know what I mean? That's what I assumed. No, he went to go pick her up himself. He was on his way to Dubai, and there was a connection in London, and he went, okay, perfect, I'm literally already here. Convenient, yes, but I don't care. Pork Chop is the goat, and he can be wherever he wants, whenever he wants. But on the flight over, actually right before she got on the flight, breaking news, Oleg's dead body washed up in a local river. And Maggie's trying to look as much into it as she can. Any news article she can find. And what she finds is kind of weird. They talk about eyewitness reports that people have seen him, and how he was seen earlier in the year with one of his balls. And she's thinking back to when she looked him up originally, and when Sharon looked him up originally, and how so little was available. And the fact that they're now bringing it up that, like, no, we knew more about him than we thought. This is definitely him. She's like, okay, so it's definitely not him, right? Like, we're talking about a man who's notoriously private, as if that wasn't the case. So, and I don't think she thinks that it's not him. I think it's not him, personally. Again, with the fake Mona Lisas and not knowing he's the real one, and why did he want to get facial reconstruction surgery to begin with, to look like someone else specifically? Why is that the case? So I think it's safe to say either it's not him and he's just escaping, or it's not him and he is framing someone for something. You know what I mean? Those are the two. Those are my two thought processes. Either way, the person who was dead in the ditch is not him. Now we are in Heathrow. Pork Chop picks up Maggie, and it's like the biggest bear hug, and it's very sweet or whatever. But we go into this really weird conversation, and this is where I put the book down for the night. And I was like, I'm done for the night. So turns out Maggie did call Trace 5 months ago. We spent the last 4 chapters being like, no, I haven't heard from him. She did call him 5 months ago. Now, that could have been mentioned back in book 1 that last I talked to him 5 months ago, last I talked to him a few months ago, our last phone call. There could have been a line like that, and I don't remember it. That's very possible, because I'm reading this over the course of a few days. But it felt kind of out of nowhere, and it's mentioned like we were supposed to know. My Kindle locked. And it's mentioned like we're supposed to know that she's been lying this entire time. And so let me just read you a small segment. And also she's thrown the phone away at this point. So they're off the grid, on the way to Bordeaux. Why Bordeaux? Pork Chop asks. She quickly explains how Steve had told her that the medical research had packed up from Apollo Longevity and moved to a secret location. When she finishes, Apollo says, and you think the secret location is on a Bordeaux vineyard? Yes. Tell me why. Maggie had spent a lot of the flight working out the angles. She was eager to try out her theory on the only person who might get it. You remember the last time I called Trace? Of course. I know you remember it wasn't a question. The Heathrow Express arrives and they hop on. Pork Chop sits and waits. He isn't the type to say I told you so, but he had warned her about making that call. She hadn't listened. Pork Chop had been against reaching out to Trace. You don't want to tip him off, he told her. And of course, Pork Chop had been right. Trace was in Dubai when I called him, Maggie says. How do you know that? I've met his girlfriend. Fiancé, actually. The Nadia who wanted you to do the surgeries. Yes. And you told her you called Trace. Maggie shakes her head. She confronted me about it. What did you say? I denied it. Denied it, Maggie thinks. A polite way of saying I straight up lied to her face. I said I never called him. Does she believe you? Hard to know. Pork chop nods. Go on. So after I called, we know Trace vanished. You figured he had something to hide and ran off. I stopped recording. I don't know when it stopped recording. I'm so sorry. I denied it, Maggie thinks. A polite way of saying I straight up lied to her face. I said I never called him. Does she believe you? Hard to know. Pork chop nods. Go on. So after I called, we know Trace vanished. You figured he had something to hide and ran off. Me? Okay, I did too, but not like you. Pork chop's face is set. You know what we learned at the Tri-Point refugee camp. She nods. One witness, and only one witness, claims they saw Trace leaving the camp after Mark was killed. That's it, and the witness could have gotten the timing wrong. Whatever. Anyway, I called Trace because I wanted to hear his explanation. Not over the phone, face to face. And he ran instead. Porkchop says, spreading his hands. Gee, that doesn't seem suspicious. The point is, we'd figured he'd gone to Bangladesh or some other remote area. Makes the most sense, easier for him to hide. Either way, Maggie says, you've been searching for him ever since, and you're good at this kind of thing, Porkchop. Not that good. No, you are. And you're, shall we say, highly motivated, yet you've come up with nothing. The point being, maybe we got it wrong, Maggie says. How so? She sits up and turns to him. Okay, so right after I called Trace, he broke into the Apollo Longevity and stole the Thumper 7 and DNA sequencing machine. All of it. At first, I figured his plan was to fly to America and hide that stuff in those safe deposit boxes. Makes sense. It did, yes. It doesn't anymore. Let me try this theory on you. I'm listening. And that's what the entire conversation goes. It's very... You know our friend Steve and how much he loves honeydew melon and how we used to gallivant together through the fields and the toast he made at my mother's wedding. This is information that we wouldn't be saying out loud. And for that to be like the reveal that Porkchop has been on the case of trying to solve his son's murder this entire time is kind of ridiculous. If you didn't get that, part of it could be my storytelling skills. I did breeze through that very quickly, and also how I've been telling this story. For the most part, I think has been pretty good, but it is my first time doing this. There could be a lot to be desired. I usually really need a script. But basically, Porkchop and Maggie this entire time have been trying to figure out who killed Mark. Why was Mark killed? Apparently, I didn't know that was the mystery that was being solved in this book. Between the secret illegal surgeries and the Russian oligarchs and the spy movie, I didn't know that that's what we're trying to solve here. But apparently, they think Trace sold out Mark. So, sus. That is where we are so far. And this is also, like, I didn't mention it back in chapter 19 with the whole grief bots and stuff. In that same conversation, Sharon talked about how Maggie, part of the reason why she got addicted to pills is because when the survivors of the Tri-Point refugee camp were saved, Maggie threw herself into trying to figure out what happened on my husband's last day alive. How could this have happened? What went on? And she interviewed everyone, her and Porkchop, interviewed everyone, saw every photo. And being surrounded by that much grief and that much violence led her to needing to rely on pills to get through the day. I never finished my thought, but that was talked about back with the grief bot. They interviewed everyone and they went to the refugee camp and they tried to figure out how could this have happened. And in that research, they came away that Trace had something to do with this. Trace and Salima/Nadia were sent away, and Mark died alone trying to save someone. So they think Trace might have sold him out, but they only found one eyewitness. One eyewitness said Trace left only after Mark had died, not before, like we thought this entire book. And apparently Porkchop has been on his tail this entire time. That's what we've been here for the entire time? Apparently. And they're having this conversation just like at the airport, just out loud. It's because they need to tell us for this to be a twist reveal of like, no, our main characters have been playing a different game, but it doesn't feel very well earned. So what the fuck did I just read? I think it's the only accurate way to put this, because what the fuck did I just read? What am I reading? And that's where we are, and that's where I had to put the book down, because genuinely, what the fuck am I reading? That's the mystery. We learned it on page 285 out of 340, we finally learned what the actual mystery is. Do I think Trace did it? No, I think... What do I think? Oh, my heart of hearts wants to put AI Mark on the list. I'm not going to. I think... To answer who killed Mark, I think we also have to answer who flipped on Oleg for the organ harvesting, which I think was Maggie, personally. Because Maggie has a secret, and I don't think the secret is that she's trying to find Trace. I think her secret is that she's the one who flipped, and that is why she stepped away, and that is why she is so beat up about Mark dying, because she wanted him to come with her. Okay? That his final moments is thinking of Maggie, and his final moments, he wishes that he had just listened to her and gone with her. So I think that's why she is so racked with guilt, and that's especially why she was on the pills. Because if she hadn't said anything, they could have gone on doing good, and the good might have outweighed the bad. I don't think that that's true when it comes to organ harvesting and helping people, but that's not my call. That's not what this book is about. So I think Maggie's the flipper. What do I think? It's hard because it's hard to definitely say what the thing is. What mystery am I trying to solve, you know? And I think we're supposed to think that Trace sold out Mark, thinking that Mark was the one who flipped because of Nadia. I think Nadia might have made it seem like it was Mark. Oh, fuck, my head hurts, dude. You know what? I still think it was Nadia. I think Nadia got Mark killed. I think Maggie flipped and told about the organ harvesting. And I think Trace is in love with Nadia. I think Nadia is in love with Mark. And I don't know if she wanted him dead or what. I think that there was something that went wrong there. And I think that's why I think Nadia wanted Trace dead. And that's why Trace left her after proposing. And I think that was my final... I'm turning that in. Final guess. Let's see how this shit ends. Also, final thing. I think Ivan Brovsky is Oleg. I don't know why, but I do. The real Oleg. And that the man who was pretending to be Oleg is the one that did get thrown over, but he's not the real oligarch. He was just, hired. Why? I don't know. There's just something there, and... yeah, there's something there. And the reason why there's something there is because Nadia has Ivan's location. She linked their phone, so she has his location, and he is in Paris. She's watching him leave. He was in Dubai for a night, and then he left. And I'm I think that he would know that you have his location, and he sent his phone with someone else, and he's actually still around in the story. And, yeah, I think Ivan is the real Oleg, and that Oleg isn't dead, and that the man who is dead was made to look like someone else completely. I think he was made to look like what Ivan used to look like. Maybe Ivan got really fit, and maybe he had surgery beforehand. Because remember, there is still something that another surgeon has come to Oleg's mansion beforehand. I think it was Mark. Charles has been there before, Mark has been there before, Trace has been there before, they've all been to his house before. Specifically these two, Mark and Trace, had been to his house before because they, according to AI Mark, and we take everything AI Mark says with a grain of salt, but they were there and they saw Oleg throw a man, or they saw Ivan throw a man into the ravine, and that's why AI Mark told Maggie, hey, you're gonna run, they're gonna kill you by throwing you into that giant ore mine. So, that's my final guess. That in some twisty way, Ivan is really the original Oleg. Okay. Where do I begin? So, in France, Pork Chop is well connected. It is a friendly biker gang that they end up meeting up with. They seem really cool. I love how they describe Pork Chop, is that he is effortlessly charming and effortlessly brings people into the fold. And Pork Chop is just my favorite character. I'll be completely honest. I know I have not made that a secret in the slightest, but I love him. He's able to find them lodging in this chateau. He's well connected. Apparently he's a friend of the owner, and instead of staying in the 5-star hotel that's that they own, they're staying in the guest house. Okay, you know what? If you had told me that Maggie had that connection, I wouldn't believe you, but since it's Pork Chop, I'll let it slide. Let me pull up my Kindle. In the last update, I didn't remember to go into my annotations in my Kindle, even though I made annotations specifically to talk to you about. So let me make sure that I have those up. And this like vineyard / hotel / chateau is been mentioned. It's been mentioned a few times throughout the book. Specifically the wine label. When they said they're going to Bordeaux, I didn't mention it, but there's a wine that Sharon was seen drinking at the very beginning of the book, and it's been brought up a couple times. It seems like a significant place to Maggie and Trace. It's like the last vacation that they went on together. And we find out that the reason why they went on that vacation was because there is this, como se dice, illegal research facility nearby. So, we were right. It was not the real Oleg that died. The real Oleg is hidden in this secret research institute underneath this abandoned vineyard. It's not Ivan, unfortunately. The body double was Oleg's cousin named Alexander. It's a much more Russian name and it starts with an A. And I'm not going to look for it now because it's mentioned like once. But it's his cousin who he saved from poverty and had him as a body double for like the past 23 some odd years. And the surgery was made to have his body double look more like him, so when he died, it was believable that he actually died. Now, the reason about the Secret Vineyard Research Institute, which we'll just call the Vineyard, the reason why the Vineyard exists is because Oleg has had health problems his entire life. He has a weak heart, he's been plagued with health issues, and so he wanted the best minds when it comes to innovation and health innovation. He wanted them in-house to do research for him to make him live forever, or at least live a long time. And that's why they were doing the whole organ transplant thing. That wasn't just for pure profit. It was because he needed, he was collecting all of the DNA. Remember how Nadia, in her village, everyone had their DNA and hers was a match? He was doing that everywhere. So if he ever needed something, they would already have a database of who was a good match that he could just buy their organs from. Which I will say, that, kind of a cool idea, kind of fucked up, but kind of a good idea. If you're like a supervillain. Let me make that very clear. It's a good idea if you're like a supervillain. But I'm like, at least you're being efficient with this. And now the reason why Maggie is there is kind of convoluted. It's like a double cross. She thinks she's playing Nadia, then realizes Nadia might have been playing me, and then someone else was playing them in the end. The point is she ended up at the Vineyard because Oleg wants her to do a heart transplant with the Thumper 7, the experimental Thumper 7. Trace stole it. They stole it for Oleg because he needs the new heart. It has not been done before. It was done before, but it failed the first time. The first time they put the Thumper 7 into someone's heart, they didn't have a live heart transplant. They had a little bit of live tissue, but not much. So it wasn't enough. The heart didn't take, and the patient died. He says, Oleg says, if we do it with a live heart, it should work just fine. And I have a man in a coma who has a live heart. Please and thank you. Give me a heart, please. And Maggie does. Maggie does the operation. And everyone is in oversized coats, big goggles, big masks, big hats, so no one can know who is what. Everything is done secretly, everything is done. They have a team that Maggie is able to work with, and they work just fine, and we'll talk about it in a second. There is this doctor, who I thought was Mark. I know, baby. I'm recording this on my phone because this might not even be used. This might not make it into the video. Maggie is performing surgery on Oleg, because the real Oleg. I think that Mark is the other surgeon. Sorry, ladies playing with a bag. What? Why? And I have thoughts about that, and we'll talk about that at the end of the book. But she does the surgery, and it goes off without a hitch, which is good, because if Oleg died, she would have died. And it works. Oleg lives. Good for him. And then that night, back to the chateau, Maggie and Porkchop are having a nice glass of wine, and they're talking, and guess who shows up but Nadia. Nadia shows up with a gun pointed at Maggie, and accuses her of killing Trace. She accuses Maggie of knowing that Trace killed Mark. It is unclear if Trace killed Mark. It's not unclear. To me, it's unclear. But we'll get there at the very end. In this moment, Nadia says Maggie killed Trace. Maggie says no, she didn't, but she had kind of planned on it. But who shows up? But Porkchop. And Porkchop admits to killing Trace. My goat. So, Maggie did call Trace. Nadia finds out because she was finally able to get a hold of his phone records. Maggie did call Trace. He does show up, but he never met up with Maggie. At the airport, Pinky grabbed him, basically brought him to Porkchop, and Porkchop killed Trace. Because Trace killed his son. Understandable crash out, bestie. Understandable. And not just that, but Trace was also the one doing all of the organ harvesting. He harvested Nadia's kidney originally. He did everything. He ran World Cures into the ground, essentially. And we don't fully understand why. Like, him and Mark were the ones that dealt with Oleg and the money and everything. But basically the money was too good and the research was too good. And Oleg kind of describes it that the three of them, our threes right here, were adrenaline junkies. And that's why World Cures was so involved with, like, risky innovation and wanting to push the envelope and wanting to try things new, and why they went to these more underserved communities and did things that other doctors, not that other doctors wouldn't do, but other doctors would be more hesitant doing, more risky surgeries, is because they were adrenaline junkies. And Trace was the worst of all of them, and to him, the ends justified the means. That with a little organ harvesting, if all of the money went to cellular regeneration research and cardio research and, like, life-changing health research, and they go into it in the book. They very clearly had a lot of help with these medical terms from some really knowledgeable doctors. Like, the way they talk about it is really well spoken. And so I'm not doing it justice, just know that it does read in the book that, like, oh yeah, no, this is a surgeon who knows what they're talking about. And yeah, they tell Nadia that Trace is dead, Mark is dead, and they go home. Maggie and Porkchop get to go home. And they're exhausted, and it sucks, and they're grieving, and Maggie gets home, and in her grief, she pulls up AI Mark again. And then, but this time when he shows up, she realizes this doesn't feel right. It's not the same. And so she goes to Sharon and asks to delete AI Mark. Goodbye, you abomination. He's dead. And they delete him. And there's this implication of healing and that Maggie's ready to move on. And she calls Porkchop, and Porkchop doesn't want to talk to her. And so she tries for weeks and weeks and weeks, and eventually he finally allows her to come over. And she gets to ask all these final questions of, like, what happened. And that's when he tells her that, like, yeah, they got him at the airport, they brought him in, and they interrogated him. And on Trace, they found that he had 2 drugs and a gun, and they were going to make it look like Maggie killed herself. Which is why, according to Porkchop, that's why he ended up killing Trace. He had lost Mark, he couldn't lose Maggie too, which is his defining thing. He's like, I've lost my son already, I can't lose my daughter-in-law, I can't do this. She's the only family I have left, apart from his bikers, right? Which is very sweet. And Maggie asks, how did you kill Trace? And Porkchop also, I thought this was interesting, Porkchop asks Maggie, what were you going to do with your father's gun? Because turns out that Maggie was going to kill Trace. By the time Trace was going to come visit, they had already put together that Trace had killed Mark, and Maggie was planning on killing Trace. She had gotten her dad's gun out of storage, and she was planning on killing him. And that was also that, plus Trace trying to kill her. Porkchop was like, we're just going to tie this up with a neat little bow. And he did. And then we also find out that Porkchop made a deal with Rigorovich through Barlow, made a deal with him for their safety, the 2 of them, Maggie and Porkchop. And that deal included organ harvesting. Now, I'm not saying that Porkchop went and killed people and was cutting their organs out. No. It is implied that Porkchop didn't actually kill Trace, but rather he put Trace into a coma and then slowly sold his parts off through Rogorovich. So his corneas helped someone see again. His pancreas went somewhere. His liver saved someone's life. And it's implied that the live heart from a coma patient that Maggie put into Oleg was actually Trace's still beating heart. Which I think is kind of baller, honestly. I think it's kind of baller. And now, there's a man that did the surgery. Maggie just called him Gruff Voice because no one there knows each other, right? Something about him seems familiar, and they work really well together, and she thinks about if only Mark or Trace could be here, because this was basically their baby, this was their research, and it sucks for them not to be here while she puts the heart in. But then at the end, we find out that it was Trace's heart, or it was most likely, allegedly, Trace's heart that went into Oleg. Oleg ends up in a coma, by the way. The heart works and it's beating, but he has too many health issues and he just ends up in a coma. And he's just alive, but in a coma. Well, after the surgery, Maggie sees a man walking away. She's free to leave, and she sees someone else leaving at the same time with a ball cap on. And she thinks it's weird. She's like, I don't even know if that's a Gruff Voice. I don't know if he was even in the surgery room with me. But she goes after this man. She goes, hey, hold on, wait up. And he runs away. And he gets in a car, and she notes that it's odd for someone to be wearing a ball cap. Not because it's a ball cap, but because they're in France. Men in France don't usually wear ball caps, whereas in America it's a much more common thing to see. Implying that this is an American, and the fact that they worked so well together, I'm like, was it Mark? Was it Mark? And I think you're meant to be left questioning, which that I kind of like, because they never identified him by his body, they identified him by his DNA. They say that his body was too mutilated to identify, which, sure, we'll go with it, you know. So it's interesting. In my heart of hearts, that's Mark, and Trace's heart, so all three of them were there, and the story gets wrapped up with a little bow, with Maggie and Porkchop finally ready to move on. Did I get anything right? No, I didn't. I got that it wasn't Oleg, but that's like a gimme. That's a freebie. I didn't get anything right. Huh. Which, like, sucks, but it is what it is. This might not have been the best book to do this with, but I'm glad I did it. Now, my rating of the book. I would give this book probably a 2.5. I feel like I'd give it 3 on a good day, but today's not a good day. So we'll do a 2.75. We'll split the diff. Yeah, I think I'd give it a 2.75. The reason being, I know I've mentioned it, that you will get pulled out of the story and then get pulled back in when a big twist happens, right? But a story is not just the twists. I think the best way I could describe this story is that it's like scenes and vibes and aesthetics and moments, like big moments, like twists. It's like a garland of those different vignettes, and they're all kind of strung together with really, really flimsy dialogue. And sometimes the dialogue, like, isn't, not only is it flimsy in, like, the, you know, my friend Steve, you know, our friend Steve moment, but also kind of awkward in general. Like, there are scenes that are short that don't feel natural ways to talk, and yeah, it's fine, it's whatever. It's completely passable. I think the story structure is good. I think the idea is really good. I think it's just not written the best, which is understandable. It's Reese Witherspoon's first book, and this is mostly her idea. Oh, I know I mentioned this early on in the book about how Maggie doesn't feel like a veteran. She doesn't feel like a veteran. She doesn't seem like she's seen combat. She doesn't feel like someone who has that life experience. Now, she talks about the life experience doesn't sit quite right. It feels like secondhand information. It feels like a military, it feels like someone's kid is relaying that information, right? That they have touched it, but they're not, but talking about it truthfully is not quite there. I didn't know Reese Witherspoon was a military brat. She thanks her parents in the back of the book. Both of her parents, it sounds like, were veterans, and she was a military brat, and they were combat medics, and so I was right. It is a lot of secondhand information. It is a lot of knowing but not having that firsthand experience, and you can kind of tell, which I don't think most people would notice. I only noticed simply because I've happened to have talked to a lot of veterans, and I didn't realize that that was true until reading this book. That, like, in college, I had a friend who was former Navy. I dated someone who's former Air Force. I'm currently dating a former Marine. I know a lot of people who were in the Army just because, again, art school, people looking for purpose and following dreams, and it just drew that crowd and how they talked about their service. Hi, Editing Percy here. So, it's been a few days since I finished the book, and since I've edited the video, it's like 90% done right now, and I realized I had more to say. I'm gonna try to keep this brief, but I don't think in good conscience I could keep my rating at a 2.75, even on a good day. I think I have to drop it down to a 0.5 to a 1 on a good day, 0.5 on a bad day. And the reason for that is because the longer I sit with it, the more I realize that this book really, really wanted to have themes that were really heavy and then didn't do the work to have the heaviness in the story, and would rather have them almost for shock value. For instance, Maggie is supposed to have PTSD. She's supposed to have nightmares about the people that she has lost on her table, and their faces and their names that she'll never forget, and how they stick with her, and how she is haunted by what could I have done differently to not have lost them. That's brought up once in one chapter. But the entire book, the idea is supposed to be the dead never leave us and we're stuck with them. But her PTSD is gone the second it's inconvenient. She gets back into surgery and she's chill. Like, there's maybe a line about, oh, I'm waiting for the nerves to kick in, but then they don't. And it's just an adrenaline rush. And it's just, ooh, this is so good. I'm so good at what I do. This is so fun. Not only does she have PTSD, but she's also most recently, her last surgery before the one in the book with Oleg and Nadia, the last one, she was high on pills and almost lost someone. I don't care how big your God complex is, you're nervous picking up that scalpel. You just are. And so it simply refuses to interact with these heavy ideas that it wants to play with. It wants to sound smart without actually being smart, it feels like. Same with the AI. Like, it brings up this AI discussion, but it doesn't know how AI works, like, in real life and within its own story parameters. It doesn't understand what it takes to make an AI software. And the easy way around it, make it magic. Make it do whatever. We live in this world where anything is possible, but you try to ground it in reality, and hey, suddenly there are a lot of other people who are smarter than you in the room. And going through my footage, I can't help but feel like this book, and I'm trying to be charitable about it. My charitable take is that Reese Witherspoon, with the help of Harlan Coben, you can only write what you know, and she knows movies. She watches movies, she's been in movies, and so that makes sense to me, right? The uncharitable interpretation is you guys wrote this to try to get a movie deal. Because that's what this feels like when I talk about the vignettes and the pockets of vibes being strung together with bad story and bad dialogue. That's what it feels like. It's meant to be this, like, epic summer blockbuster, high stakes thriller with the dazzling outfits and the beautiful environments. That's what it feels like. But that's not a good book. And don't even get me started on the things that were brought up and then dropped. These are much less important, but, like, the fact that Maggie for a couple chapters is, like, really into art heists and has a lot of art knowledge, and then it's dropped. And don't even get me started, why the fuck was the cousin telling her about the Mona Lisa thing? I know it's supposed to set us up as the reader to prime us for the big switcheroo. That's not, like, We didn't need the whole Mona Lisa story to get that, given the whole chapters we're talking about. This palace feels like a poor imitation, you know? But it's like really, really heavy-handed for like a really short segment, and then it gets dropped. She never talks about art again. The fact that no, she would not leave Dubai, because I don't think the authors realize that, hey, Dubai has a lot of cameras. It's one of the wealthiest countries in the world. They have a lot of cameras. You're not leaving. Even with a fake passport, when they have your face, that's not happening. The fact that Porkchop kills Trey so Maggie doesn't have to, when in fact it should be the other way around. Maggie should kill Trey so Porkchop doesn't have to, because of the idea that the dead never leave us and that killing someone never leaves you. Do you know who's going to be more familiar about that? Not the biker, the surgeon who's supposed to have served in combat, like, war zones. The decorated surgeon. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. She can't be... Either you talk about the heavy topics and you let them have the weight that they're supposed to have, like PTSD and grief and loss and death in war zones. In war zones. You let that actually have weight to it, or you don't write about it. Like, this story would not be any different if only Mark and Trace were involved with world cures and Maggie was just a normal surgeon. The story would not be any different. Wouldn't be any different whatsoever. Even down to her being like, I'm a military brat with military training. That is easily, that's so easy to write away that, oh, my dad was an army surgeon, my husband's an army surgeon. I know something, you know? For example, I'm personally anti-gun. I don't like guns. But do you know what my partner wants me to learn how to do? Handle a gun, just in case, just for safety. God and Goddess forbid I ever have to, but just in case, because of paranoia and because of seeing violence and knowing people who have experienced violence. I would readily believe that her dad and Mark would have taught her skills just because, for fun, just to make the story work. I would much more believe that than her actually being a veteran, with how little her being a veteran actually impacts the story. I really don't like this book. And if you like it, more power to you. I'm so happy. The joy of us having so many books in the world is that not everything needs to be for everyone. And with my life experience and the friends and the knowledge that I have with AI and with veterans specifically, this book was specifically not for me. So it is what it is, but I wasn't going to let all this footage go to waste. So, yeah. Was there anything I liked about this book? I liked how twisty it was. I like the twist. I think that Witherspoon and or Coben, Coben's already an established author, so I hope he continues to write books. But Witherspoon, I hope that she continues to write books. I think that we always need more authors in the world, and she clearly has good ideas. The twists were fun. I think it's just too grand a scope for such a new author. There are a lot of amateur author mistakes that I also make. That's how I know it's an amateur author mistake, is because I also make them, and I'm constantly catching myself trying to correct them, right? Like dropping things out. Like, hey, I mentioned this thing earlier and I forgot about it, or hey, I didn't research this enough. So, game recognizes game, babe, okay? If she continues writing, which I hope that she does, I'd give it a look. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't. I'd be interested to see what crazy twist that she would think up next. But if it has anything to do with AI or veterans, I'm skipping. But other than that, yeah. But what did you guys think? Have you read this book? Do you want to read the book? Now that I've spoiled everything for you? Let me know down below. Do you think this was a good book to do this video with? Do you have a better suggestion to do a video like this with? Should I still do a Freida McFadden book? I think that'd be kind of fun. Something kind of out there and ridiculous. Did you figure it out? Did you see any of these twists coming? Do you think Mark's alive? And do you hate AI Mark as much as I do? Let me know all that and every thought that passes through your noggin down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Okay, bye! I'm sweating. It's so stressful to do a video without a script. I don't know how some people do it just off rip. I'm sweating. I'm so nervous, dude. I really hope I got everything I wanted to say out. If not, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, I tried my best. I'm not good at improvising. I'm not. Ugh. And if anyone's curious, the raw audio file is 4 hours and 22 minutes. That's how long I've been sitting here and talking. And that's not including the stuff I filmed on just my camera audio, and that's not including the stuff I filmed on my phone. Pray for me, please and thank you.